We'll dive a bit into some few data and how they might help us on how we communicate and we shape our narratives based on the facts we have.
As common people, let's break down information, let's break down data. As a PR, let's embrace data to tell stories, and we shall not struggle to pitch our stories.
If organizations or clients are asking you to do something, the first thing would be to find out why. Why do you want me to do this campaign? How is it going to be of any value? We can't do our jobs sitting on our desks. We have to be out there talking to our people. We have to be out there in the field. We have to know what's going on and what is wrong.
So I think it's important that you understand your audience. People have changed. Your point needs to be short enough to entice interest, but not too short to reveal everything.
Don't forget the people you started with. The people who have walked with us when we were small are people who are enjoying life when we are big.
So when you're looking at social media, you have to start from a point of not just the social media properties, but what technology is offering.
Social media has made our audience closer. Constantly being active on social media is very key to at least minimize such crises.
Identify, establish, and manage mutually beneficial relations with people or groups who have potential to harm or promote our business.
Please pay attention to the picture on the profile and the header. Do not open your page as Solomon Serwanja with that of the Institute. You will end up posting your content on the official Twitter handle for your brand, and you will be in very, very, very big trouble.
If many of us are legislated by law, EAPRW will become a very strong body that represents a lot of credible institutes around Africa. And then our representatives in EAPRW can boldly go to the Africa Union. They can boldly go to the Pan-African Parliament when there are sittings.
So I've sat on over 58 panels, sharing information and knowledge. I deserve a medal. No, seriously, we have served this country. Stephen, haven't we? So I'm happy that this is happening, that we've seen young people like Martha here and the other colleagues, Akelo. We're exiting and they're taking the center stage. So I hope learning is taking place. In the last 2 days, we have shared a lot of information. And I don't know if someone has a microphone. As we wait for our colleagues, I just want to do a recap, short recap. Any insights, any learning, takeaways that in the last 2 days we've shared a lot, really. AI. The other day I was joking with my friend. This is artificial intelligence. Which gender is it? Because when I was asking it, I asked AI, the tool, you know there are so many tools. So I asked it so many questions. And then it said, I'm tired. Immediately I knew the AI is female. You know. So I'm tired, as I knew this one must be a lady. So anyways, so microphone. We have talked about AI, we have talked about digital communications, we've talked about unity, collaboration, using big data in PR. What have we learned? What are your takeaways? And I think we've been also talking about, the other day Henry told us how the other professions are in the boardroom and we're struggling to get to the boardroom. Are we challenged? You know, the president of this country calls us rumor mongers. Have you heard that statement? That we are rumor mongers and rumor sellers, which is not the case, isn't it? Because delegates who come from Rwanda, let me see Rwanda. Yes, my friend here, Mujisa. Yes, Emma there. They know how much the government invests in public relations, isn't it? Their communication structures, and how important it is and relevant to their country. So we are trying to change that mindset in Uganda, and some of the things that PRAU is doing to organize such big events so that we change the narrative. And we've seen that narrative being changed in a number of countries like Nigeria, Zambia, and today we are privileged that Zambia will share with us a case study on how they have managed to change that narrative. Anyone with a microphone? Austin? Yes, yes. So I want to know, the last 2 days, any takeaways? Just one. Yes, let's start with Irene over there. One, what have you learned? I'm sure learning has been taking place.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes.
I think what I've learned the past 2 days that really stood out for me is in order for you to create key compelling narratives, you need to understand your audience and understand what they need, what journey they are at in life, in the consuming journey, so you can, write compelling messages and storytelling for them.
Awesome. Thank you, Irene. Please state your name first. Vicky? Any learning? Yes.
Good morning. So I think for me it was the fact that as much as the landscape is changing, we have an ability to learn. If we are interested, no matter much as we said, okay, the young people are more tech savvy and all that, but as long as we have a learning capacity, then we are able to understand this and also use the new tools as they keep coming. So our learning should not stop here.
Absolutely. It's changing, landscape is changing, but it's an opportunity for us to tap into the opportunities that are available, isn't it? In front of us. Yes, Mijisa here.
Thank you, and
it's a huge opportunity for us.
What I learned from this particular conference is all about focusing on our customers. We might turn our eyes on influencers, but there is a specific segment of our customers. Let's say those in the banking sector. They do have so many customers. As you serve them very well, they go and tell your stories. And no need to focus on customers with so many followers. Even if you have 200 followers and you tell a great story on a brand, it can be viral. So let's focus on keeping our eyes on customers so that they can tell the good story about our brands. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What I've learned in the past 2 days is how to embrace the use of artificial intelligence, using it wisely, and protecting the country, the corporate image of the organization. Another thing is how to use the influencers in a win-win situation, so that we protect the image of the organization, quoting the example which was given yesterday of a character which was used by the government that is commonly known as bad black, and eventually being used by a university institution. That was a paradox in my view. There are some characters, influencers you use who will eventually make your brand go down instead of building it. How to rebrand the region This I learned that actually we are behind schedule. We have a basket full we've harvested and we are ripe, but I think the association is lacking the reporting structure. Where do we put the harvest we have collected? The presenters, the last presenters yesterday gave us all it takes to start moving. We've been talking about this since I started participating in EAPRW. That was in 2011 when I was the EAPRW treasurer. We were at Mombasa. We talked about this. And I think this meeting would instead generate names. We offer at least 10 names which we can use to rebrand. The brain is here, have the capacity to generate those names. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Vicky, you have something to share?
Good morning, everyone. So yesterday, when Madam Vice President was speaking with us, Vice President with a capital V and P, she said that we have to tell our story and we have to tell it the right way. That is the value that we have as communicators. We are very, very important, very, very essential in the field of in every field, so in governance, in education, in every way. So for Africa to be seen in the way we want her to be seen, we have to tell our story right. And also regarding influencers, I learned that once our strategy has been achieved, once we have mapped out the strategy to use in picking out influencers, we have to look for the 3 R's, which is the reach, the relevance, and the resonance. Who are the people that we are trying to reach? What kind of story are we trying to sell to them? And what effect, what advantage, what are we trying to reach? What are we trying to get from these people? We have to measure it with the 3 R's. Thank you very much. I didn't come on day 1, so if there could be a recap of the artificial intelligence.
You just summarize day 1. Ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate. I think learning is taking place, isn't it? Learning is taking place, and I'm happy to note that you can see a lot of progress has happened. I think people have picked up key lessons. Now the issue is, how are you going to implement these lessons and actions that you've picked up? Because the other day we were talking about, Vicky, we were talking about AI, and realized that AI is probably going to take most of the routine tasks of public relations. How are we going to remain relevant and strategic enough to be clever than AI? Okay? And we're embracing change, we're embracing the digital age, but how are we going to remain relevant? And of course, AI will not implement most of these strategies, isn't it? It's us to strategically implement most of the PR and communication strategies. So how are we prepared for that? I think that was some of the key lessons we picked. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to run through this program, and then I'll allow the DJ to run 3 adverts for some of our sponsors, and then we kick off. Now, the program is going to run like this. Please keep time through the sessions. We are going to have a panel discussion. And this panel discussion is on data-driven public relations, leveraging analytics for improved communication strategies. And the session will be moderated by Oyuke Faustin, a PR specialist from Tanzania. Yes, over there. And also our panelists will include Mijisha Magnifique, a PR and coordinator of investor education programs at Rwanda's Capital Market Authority. Mijishi is here. Let's appreciate these panelists. Sabra Saleh, Executive Director of Toolkit, Tanzania. Oh, over there. Sabra, nice seeing you. Then we have Ken, this name. Ken, that name. Igbas. Huh? Egivas, CEO of True CSR, Nigeria. And then we have Stephen Chirenga. Let's appreciate these panelists. Head Product and Business Development and Customer Experience at Centenary Bank. Those I just put Uganda. You are Head Product, Business Development and Customer Experience in Uganda. Okay. Stephen, over there. Stephen, thank you for coming. And then at 9:50 to 10:05, we'll have just a Q&A session. Faustin will moderate that. And then we have tea break for only 30 minutes. Let's appreciate Oyuke. Has been around. I think Oyuke has, this is the 4th or 5th panel. Please, Oyuke, take your seat. Is a panelist, but also a moderator at the same time. Magnifique, Mejisha, Pierre, and coordinator. Do we have these profiles of these very important people? From Capital Markets Authority in Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate Sabra Saleh, Executive Director of Toolkit Tanzania. Sabra, thank you for making it, and thank you for coming to share information. Stephen Chirenga, ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate Stephen, who is our Head Product and Business Development and Customer Experience, if I'm not mistaken, at Centenary Bank now. Uganda, I see Uganda, Bank of Uganda as a country. So he's the Head Product Business Development in Uganda. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me now hand over this microphone to Oyuke Faustin, who will take us through this session. And it's from this time to the next 1 hour. And Austin will be our timekeeper. 1 hour strictly. Then we have a few minutes, 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A session. And then I will tell you what will be next. Thank you very much.
Does everyone have a mic? The panelist? All right. Morning, everyone. The 1 hour starts minus some few some few minutes he has spent explaining. I don't know what he was explaining anyway. Yes, we have a panel, and it's on data. And I'm told Megisha is from capital markets. Sabra is from Toolkit. I think the Toolkit is artificial intelligence. And the brother there is from the bank.
Centenary Technology Services. It's part of
Centenary Technology Services. Your moderator for today hails from communication, and I'm an actuary. So when I was given this panel, I thought of making it a lot more easier, and not of arithmetics and integers. But making that way will not make this panel meaningful. We'll dive a bit into some few data and how they might help us on how we communicate and we shape our narratives based on the facts we have. Data, these are simply facts, and these facts might be information, and they might be in terms of statistics. Mr. Henry can confirm that as well. So today we'll discuss on the two legs, statistics and information. But we'll discuss on how PR can change, can leverage the statistical point of view to a good narrative of communication. I'm told data in communication and reshaping the communication strategies we do in our day-to-day activities give valuable insights on what we decide. They normally improve return on investment. And of course, they tell us what to do, especially on that aspect of return of investment. But as a normal tool, we normally use data to measure success. How many people in this room use social media accounts to measure success? I think everyone does, eh? If you see you have 7 retweets and another one has 700, you see yourself as a failure, right? And if you see many likes, so all these are the information which are gathered through data and being analyzed for communication purposes and putting proper strategies for our communication. But sometimes data are misinterpreted. Of course, misrepresented as well, especially in the communication area. Because most of us, I don't know, should I say we ran from mathematics so early? Or it was a premature death on mathematics? But that's not an issue. We have experts here who will tell us how we navigate through that. Yeah? So, Mr. Migisha, I know the capital markets works much with data. The issuance of bonds, indices and everything. My first question would be, since you guys are directly linked to these kind of statistics, how are those statistics user-friendly to us who don't know much of the mathematics and the statistics, but want to use that data? And where are the tools that would help us navigate through that? Welcome.
Thank you, Oyuke. First of all, let me share my personal story. When I got this opportunity to sit on this panel, I reflected on my experience on my career. I joined the PR sector back in 2012, almost 11 years ago. As a junior PR person with no background in communication, I was supposed to use my skills as a journalist to promote I served the Ministry of Youth and ICT, and I was the first ever PR person in that sector. So handling PR for both youth and ICT sector, it was not easy, but I tried. I used my little skills to use data. For the purpose for this particular conversation, let me share with you an example. On Monday, I sat on this panel and I shared with you a program called Youth Connect, and let me know those in the audience who know more about Youth Connect. By raise of hand, Youth Connect is a Pan-African program which connects young people to leaders, to opportunities. When I joined the Ministry of Youth and ICT, that program was still at the beginning. It was a simple hangout conversation whereby the minister, the PS engage young people from across the country. And I remember after 1 year, we reported that the Youth Connect created more than 2,000 jobs. That time we got the fund from UNDP to support this particular program. And as we speak, Youth Connect is now operational in more than 35 countries across Africa. And for your information, this year Kenya will host the Youth Connect Africa. That's on the basis of data, how you can share data statistics to get on board more funders to promote your program. Another personal story I remember back then when I was a junior PR, I remember how I tweeted a very simple post about the internet penetration in Rwanda. It was around 4 p.m. I tweeted that information. Then in the evening, I heard on Radio Rwanda quoting that tweet, that the Rwanda was ranked first in sub-Saharan Africa in internet penetration and affordability. I remember the percentage was 60%. So that information went viral. And later on, we got so many calls from mainstream media, from BBC, VOA, calling the ministry to balance that story. You can understand the impact of sharing statistics, data, to grab first the attention from the media, from the public, and from our target audience. As you know, when the media, they pick your story, it's a successful campaign. And you know how tricky is media erosion when you want to pitch your story to editors. It's so tricky. But nowadays, you can mix the data-driven PR and use digital storytelling or digital PR to share the story. Then later on, the media will call you. Could you come on our show to discuss more about this and that? So that's mainly what I recorded in my earlier career, but let me touch base on your question on how Capital Market Authority of Rwanda is using data to engage audience, to bring on board potential investors, and keep educating existing investors. As you know, we are all investors. In this room, as PR, marketing, commerce people, we shall save and invest for ourselves, for our families, for a better future. So at the Capital Market Authority, we target all segments, including journalists. We have an annual training targeting financial journalists, whereby we discuss in layman's language how this data are simple, how to calculate some interest, how the benefits of investing in shares, in a bond, in CIS. So at Capital Market Authority, we use mostly data to inform the public so that they can come in the industry to save and invest. Let me give you an example. We have a CIS fund, is an investment fund, whereby the interest rate per annum is 12%. And we are mainly targeting small savers because the minimum investment is only 2,000 Rwandan francs. It's close to 6,000 or 7,000 Ugandan shillings. So in this case, we are targeting small savers, including young people, including small business owners. So in this case, we show them the interest rate per annum, it's 11%, but growing now, by the end of 2023, we shall be around 12%, and we show them about the minimum investment. So as common people, let's break down information, let's break down data. Data is key. So Oyuke, for the interest of time, can I share some few principles on the PR-driven campaign so that we can share some insight? So the first principle is all about data is proactive. As we share information, we are able to predict. Let's say we all master our sectors. those from the banking sector, those from insurance, those coming from the government, as I'm coming from a government agency. We know how our sectors operate. So we have a capability to predict on when to break a story. Let's say those in the banking sector like Kenneth, they might predict, let's say, this time we shall release our annual performance. So as a PR, that's a great opportunity to plan for an aggressive media campaign or awareness campaign around that performance. In this case, so in Rwanda, it's so popular, where banks, they do hold general assemblies, they do hold some press conference to share the information. But in this case, as comms professionals, we have a very big task. I can see in some of the organization, they share a 20-page PDF document with data. So even if a business journalist can't be able to pick a particular data to publish. In this case, as comms people, let's simplify data so that, let's say, for example, commercial bank has got, let's say, a 15 billion interest this year. So in this case, you might simplify it to showcase how the bank performed in that particular period. So the next principle is data is responsive. In this case, we might generate news. When you have data, data is king. When you have data, you might break a story and everyone will be amazed. So in this case, we shall also know that data is responsive. Another important principle, data is timely. So you plan in a period that, let's say this year for the capital market back in Rwanda, we have, let's say, 5 key awareness campaigns per annum, whereby I plan for a campaign, let's say in May. We run what we call Capital Market University Challenge, where we target students to educate them about capital market so that they can become future investors and future professionals. So in this case, you might plan that time that I will release something. Another important principle is that data is scalable. In this case, you might start small. Ian said that in his PR career, he served so many panels. But as you know, we are learning. Let's say as a junior or senior PR, there is a possibility you can start small. Let's say today release something on data and track the audience, how they perceive that information. The next time we will improve. So data is scalable. As I close OUK, let me share with you another important information. Yesterday, we had a very insightful conversation from Honorable Chris. I remember very well how he said that it's so tricky to get these big media houses, BBC, VOA, to come and cover a positive story. So they come and balance bad news. But for the case of Rwanda, and yesterday my colleague Emma shared about the transformative journey of Rwanda and the impact of PR. I remember a few years ago, there is a big story which went out whereby the government of Rwanda uplifted over 1 million Rwandans from poverty. And that story can be found on Google, where big media houses cover that particular story. That story was published on the blogs for World Bank, IMF. But the important thing is about 1 million Rwandans which were uplifted from poverty. So it was a big news. Another news I remember very well, during COVID in Rwanda, we had even across the globe, the vaccination campaign. And in mid-2022, I remember very well, there is a news which went out whereby the government of Rwanda vaccinated over 60% of citizens. That was a big news, and it was picked by all these media houses to inspire other countries to roll out vaccination. As a PR, let's embrace data to tell stories, and we shall not struggle to pitch our stories. The media will come back to us to get information, to get interview from our officials. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Migisha, for that enlightening conversation. Where is the other one? Yeah, so you can really see how data can tease journalists to pick our stories and media houses pick our stories. So Migisha mentioned something like you might find an institution giving a PDF document with 200 pages, all with numbers, which are very suited to Mr. Ken, who is a statistician, and some actuaries. Now, let me go to Steve, to Mr. Steve Kirenga. In such cases, if I'm not so able to dissect 150-page document with so many numbers, as a journalist, as a peer, as a communication expert, what would be the tools that can help me identify the angles or where the story lies in those numbers? Would you please enlighten us on that?
Okay, thank you and good morning once again. Before I answer that, and I'll apologize to Ian and Tina, I want to stress your sponsors a bit. The sponsors who played the videos here, if you check your Twitter accounts, how many of you are talking about East African PR Week? I think out of 5, only 1. So you have spent money. Yeah, that's you guys. You've spent money, but you're not talking about it. So what does the data, so if you have to go back to your bosses and you justify another sponsorship, what will you use? That is data. You're not leveraging your sponsorship. Let me answer your question now. Sorry to the guys who I'm outing. I think there are very many tools that are there to summarize 200-page publications. But I think also importantly, as PR practitioners, why are you making 200-page documents? Just now, I think that in the room there was a shared appreciation that even the videos that we watched of our very, very valued sponsors were just too long. They were documentaries, not adverts. You know, the way there's a very key aspect of segmentation, understanding your audience. Today, people don't have time to read. That is why platforms like TikTok have become such a global fad. Purely because on TikTok there will be a 30-second, 1-minute video that will get to the point and someone moves on. So as a communicator, what business do you have doing even a 5? Sometimes I'm in a couple of WhatsApp groups where someone posts a press release and there are 5 pages and you wonder, now who will read this? You know? I always struggle with, because a centenary group, right now we are celebrating 40 years of operations in Uganda, expanded to Malawi, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into the distance. We are under a lot of, not pressure, but a lot of media houses are coming with us to do supplements. And I think many of you, at least I know for Ian and some of the guys who have been around, supplements for me don't do it. Having 50 pages in a newspaper just doesn't cut it for me. So I think not that they are not important, but I'm just saying that people no longer read those many pages. Even when we were, and maybe I'll just try and just get to my last part. We recently did Uganda's first digital transformation roadmap on behalf of the government and UNDP. And I struggled with my partners from government and UNDP because I just couldn't understand why they wanted us to launch a 100-page book. And eventually what we agreed was that we would have one that would be ceremonial, launched by the Vice President, goes to NPA to put into NDP4, blah, blah, blah. But for the other audiences who really want to actually work, like for the telecos, we just had a 5-slide summary of the plan and said for Uganda to develop via digital, 5 slides, that's it. So I think you can always use ChatGPT, what else, Quillbot, etc. They're all available online, you can summarize, but I think at the crux of it is that as PR people, if you're doing a 200-page brochure, yeah, you're not doing the right thing. If you're doing an advert that is beyond 2 minutes, maybe reconsider. If you're going to do a pull-up banner that is a flyer, yeah, please reconsider. So I think it's important that you understand your audience. People have changed, a very big youth population across the region as well. So I think we need to ensure that there's that old thing, that old saying, which goes that, and again with due respect to the women and other people that identify as they do, your point needs to be short enough to entice interest, but not too short to reveal everything. So that should be the the principle of KISS. Keep it short. The other S I won't say. So, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Sweet and short, eh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Sabra, I know you have been into this industry for quite some time, almost 2 decades, eh? Yeah. So you've been meeting some clients who have that kind of information, and they still need you to pitch, they still need you to do better, they still need you to reach their audience. What's the experience you have had in the past 20 years of such nature?
Thank you, UK, for your question. So my name is Sabra, and I run a toolkit in Dar es Salaam, consulting for communication strategies. We do communications training. And one of the things that I think throughout my 20+ year career that I've learned is we can come to these conferences and listen to the data and analytics conversations, but I just want to know from the audience, how many of us do research before we plan our campaigns or strategies in communication? Your hands can go higher. This is not to shame anyone. How many of us do measurement to see how our campaigns or communications plans are doing? Okay. And how many of us evaluate the work that we do to see if we need to change it or keep it at the same? So in this audience itself, if let's say somebody is asked to go and pitch for something that an organization wants, and they want it on and they insist this is where the direction that they're going, in the audience, there are people who are doing measurement but not doing the research. There are people who are doing the evaluation but not doing the research and the measurement. So we didn't, as professionals, go into communications because of our mathematics skills, and I'm one of them. And we find the words research and measurements and analytics intimidating. How many of you in the audience find it intimidating? Like, this is not something I can tackle.
It's usually confusing.
Just one. Of course, later I'd like to know why people are not doing the research or the measurements. But what's usually very important is when you, if it's not intimidating, that's great, then maybe it's something that we really need to do before we work on a communication campaign or a strategy. If organizations or clients are asking you to do something, the first thing would be to find out why. Why do you want me to do this campaign? Why do you want me to launch this product? What's the reason behind it? How is it going to make the organization money? How is it going to be of any value? If the executives are able to answer those questions, then you can go back and do the research that is required to deliver what you need to deliver. Find out where you stand. And again, we are not all of us as statisticians, but we can start as simple as having conversations with the people that we work with. If you work for the oil and gas industry and they want you to launch a safety campaign, why are we launching a safety campaign? Is it because there are more incidents that the organization needs to pay injury remuneration to the employees? What exactly is the purpose? So sometimes we are very proactive. We do something before we find out what is the root cause. So instead of jumping to creating a campaign that will talk about sharing information about safety to all your employees in the office and in the field, find out what is causing the incident. Why are our people getting injured on the job? Which means we leave our offices, we go to the field. And I always like to say this, we can't do our jobs sitting on our desks. We have to be out there talking to our people. We have to be out there in the field. We have to know what's going on and what is wrong. Why are we having safety incidents? Maybe our employees are not trained. So maybe there needs to be a budget for training, safety training. Once we are able to achieve these little goals, the safety training will create less incidents. Once we have less incidents and we can show that our communication plan has created less incidents in the company, which means we have saved money this year from the training and from the communication campaign, and therefore that safety campaign was worth the investment. But there has to be a benefit to the company. They have to know that they've invested in the communication and in the safety training, and at the end of the day, they saved money. Another example, again, if you're asked to do an international, internal newsletter campaign for your global audience, you have employees in different countries in Africa or in the world, and your newsletter is going out in English from the head office. So you've asked your regional and international offices to translate it into the national language. How would you know if this is actually working? You can conduct a survey. You conduct the survey, you send it out globally, and in the survey, this is actually an example for one of the companies, they found out that not all their offices provided translated newsletters. So that means in some of their offices around the world, the employees who actually were more informed are the ones that were reading the newsletter in their local language. This was an indication from the organization that it was worth for them to spend money in translation so that their employees across the globe are able to understand the strategy of the company, the mission, where they were going, their programs. So these are the type of things that I say that, yes, we might not be mathematicians and statisticians, but there are things that we can start working on slowly that will kind of help us understand the shape and where our company stands, where our employee stands. What's the if another example, I like to give real practical examples because, again, for me, these help me understand how data can work versus somebody being too technical. If you have or an organization that tells you that they want to do a campaign for being the best employer in the country, Are you going to just launch the campaign, or are you going to research and find out if the employees are actually happy? So this is also a danger in doing something without doing the actual research and measurement. So you can start small. You can start by talking to your colleagues. You can find out what the company means to them. Are they happy where they are? And then you go back to your management and say, listen, the atmosphere in the company is not good, so this campaign is going to come and backfire. And you share those statistics. And yes, sometimes we don't have budgets. How many in the room have a budget for research and measurement and evaluation? Nobody. Nobody has a budget. Oh, one? So this is something that people work on and they don't have a budget. So how can you do it when you don't have a budget? Have conversations. We are people. Our job is to know everybody in our departments, not only for data, but even our stories come from knowing the engineer that works in the field and the guy that digs the drainage in the municipality we work for, and so on. So this is really important. It's also a form of collecting data when you do not have a budget, and you're able to present the case in a more clear way to your management so that they can start slowly buying into the realization that they need to start investing in data tools, software, to help assist you. And my last point is going to be, make friends with people who are statisticians. Talk to them about what you want to do and let them help you. Do not feel shy asking for help. I always say what I don't know. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. If I don't know, I'll find out who can help me. So make friends with people who can add value into your data and research and measurement and evaluation, and then try slowly to enhance your skills from there.
Yeah, if I can just segue into what she's just said, if you
yes, proceed,
beg
please.
indulgence.
Yeah.
So for especially for the internal comms, the important aspect is to understand your audience. In this case, it is the staff members, right? How many of you have taken time to understand the browsing habits of your staff members? Obviously, outside of the bad sites. I think it's important that you make friends with the guys in IT to understand the things that they like to do. And that way, if you're going to speak to them or if you're going to cause impact, you're speaking to what matters to them. You know? So I think that's important. So on top of the guys in statistics, the guys in IT, those guys have a lot of information. Obviously within respect of data privacy and all that, but just understanding at a deeper level, because that's there. And maybe just lastly, this aspect of, from a broader perspective, the customer touch points. How many times do we care to understand the experience at our customer touch points? And do we tabulate that, or do we collect that? Right from the guy at the gate, I mean at the scurry or the soldier or whatever it is, to, if you have a mobile app, to Twitter, to, you know, do we measure that? Is that a KPI for us as PR practitioners? Because it's an extension of how your brand is performing. So I think it's important that you also do that, you know, closely related to what Sabra was saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So, borrowing a leg from what you've said, that our customer touch point, I'm coming to Migisha now. So, now I'm a PR in a certain organization. And of course, I want to propose my selling proposition based on the data. How can I match my selling proposition and customers' touch point on data? How can I leverage that? You know, I want to match these two things. Like, this is my selling proposition, and this is the data I have, and that is the catch point of my customers. How can I make them easily compatible?
Thank you, Oyuke. Let me respond to your question with our experience of the Capital Market Authority, whereby back in 2015, 2017, we used a huge budget to cover the airtime on TV we promoted so many campaigns, but we found that the budget was too much. And later on, we shifted to our social media platforms. We created the content for these platforms. You know what? We used to spend more than 50 million online francs per annum in those awareness campaigns. But as we speak now, we are spending 10 million per annum. We are using most of our social media platforms. We are having a growing handle on X. We are active on LinkedIn. And you know what? My fellow panelists talked about how to bring your colleagues on board. Before, most of my colleagues were not on Twitter. Then I organized an internal training so that they can activate their handles. And I learned that our IT manager yesterday, he followed that conversation on EAPR 2023. And he told me that he saw the ESC, our country's flags, when we were opening the session yesterday. That's an impact of bringing your colleagues on board, even our bosses. I know most of you might handle the social media for your bosses, but there's a possibility you can train them to handle for themselves. When they are replying on a personal level and they have a capability to track on how the brand is performing. My fellow panelists talked about how we are not using this hashtag as we promote for this particular conference. And this is a big issue. I followed even the last edition in Mombasa. The performance on Twitter was not good. So in this case, as we are handling, and there is much, and there is a possibility ourselves we can tell our stories using data. Let's say we do our best so that our brand can trend, can be visible. But for this particular forum, even if our fellow peers from across the region who missed this particular opportunity to come for this conference, they might join the next edition in Tanzania. But we depend on how we leverage on data, on insights. So it's key to do research, to understand our audience, and the most important thing is being able to measure the KPIs. Key performance indicators is very key. As we plan for our annual activities, it's advisable to go back and report in the boardrooms. Our friend Ian said that how PR professionals, how they are not getting the position in the boardrooms, in the suite. So there is a possibility we can join our fellows on that table so that we can explain that this is the performance of our campaign so that it can be able to increase the budget. And there is another important thing. As we are all behind different brands, you can't be successful without investing in data program. So we have to do research. I know PR people, we are trying to specialize. They say, I started my career in ICT sector, I shifted in financial sector, so it's better to be familiar with your sector so that you might understand it. In this case, as Sabra said, those working in petroleum, gas sector, there is a possibility you can engage your colleagues so that you can be able to understand some key information. At the end of the day, you are the one behind the social media account, responding to people, engaging them, crafting press releases, handling media interaction. So it's better to specialize. I know we shift from this sector to another sector, but take a time. Let me share with you an experience. As I have a background in journalism, it was so tricky to master these capital market terminologies. But I took a time. I read all policies, all documents, all, let's say, almost 5 years annual reports, so that I can be familiar with the sector. So as we speak, I can go on TV, I can engage officials. I've told you on Monday how we conducted a very good campaign when we engaged the diaspora community so that they can be able to invest back in Rwanda. So as we break down data, we might bring on board even investors, particularly our diaspora members living abroad. So my colleagues in the financial sector from the Ministry of Finance. So it's better to remember to engage our target audience, but data is key. Always when you are breaking down data, you are able to grab attention from all audience. First of all, engage journalists. When you are giving them a brief press release with a good headline with data, they will copy and paste it. Thank you.
Thank you much, Migisha. I'm told this session is about to end, but it won't end until I give it to the floor. So, some few questions to the panel, and I would advise you directly take it to a person who is responsible, one of the panelists, or you can leave it as that way.
Sorry, ladies go first.
Thank you. Thank you, our panelists. My name is Grace Kenganzi from the Petroleum Authority of Uganda. My question is for Sabra. Yes, we've understood the importance of measuring our campaigns and our success. However, most of us have budget constraints on using those budget constraints to pay for the tools that would help us measure well. So do you have any tips for some free tools that we can access and use? Any examples of some free tools or well-priced tools that we can use? Thank you.
Sabra, maybe we take.
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Victor Karamaji. I work for NSF Uganda. My question goes to Migisha, and maybe the other panelists can chip in. Could you speak to the side of the consumer, making sure the data we are communicating makes sense to the people consuming it? Can it mean something to them? If you're talking to Rwandans in the diaspora about investing back home, and you're pushing out all this data, how do you ensure it makes meaning? They can interpret and be able to make those key decisions that you want. One of the issues where is not struggle really, but take into account at the fund is when we are communicating performance. If you're telling a member who has given his money for the last 5 years that you've made $50 million profit, what does that mean to him? If it does not mean anything, they'll forget the next minute. So speak to that, please. Thank you.
There's a hand here. Wait for the camera.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the panel. My name is Emily Chelangat, and I work with the National Planning Authority in Uganda. And I have great interest in communication research. I have one question. In communication research, how do you deal with biases, especially when dealing with research in internal comms? How do you deal with the biases? Because you find that some staff may be for or against certain things in the organization, but then you need factual information. So how do you deal with the biases? Thank you.
Another here, and then the last one there.
Thank you very much. I think the panel has done excellently in terms of And, yeah, they pretty deserve another one. Thank you. So I just would like to add this to the points that we have heard from the panel. I think for most of us as PR people, we have entered into one of the best times since Africa became self-conscious where you work in communication. And I'll tell you why. As we stand right now, there are 650 million mobile phone users in Africa. And that number is higher than all of Europe. I'm sure it shocks you. All of Europe put together. You can check it out. There's an EAPRW site. And that figure is also higher than the total number of users, even in America. So that tells you something. For a long time, we had to wait for people to come to our media platforms. Now we have that unique opportunities to take our stories and our ideas to them. In Africa today, talking about the opportunities that we have on our hands, there are more people who have access to mobile phones than clean water and electricity. Yeah, that's true. So it's a gold mine for those of us who are in public relations or who are in communication. If you look at Africa, you find almost the top 5 companies that have nearly 100% compliance in terms of mobile access. You have Gabon with 96%, Morocco 96%, Cote d'Ivoire 94%, Mauritius 94%, Eswatini 94%. Almighty Nigeria with all 220 million thereabout, we're still at 67%. So what I'm trying to say is that more than ever before, if we can incorporate the virtues of AI, like my friend shared on Monday, and how to use the data available to us, we should be able to mine the market better to the benefits of our organizations and our brands. One of the things that data can help you do, your organizations, being able to analyze them correctly. One, it helps you to understand your target market better. Every time you come out with a product or an idea, it goes through the various stages of the marketing mix, our different points of the curve, from introduction all the way to the point where your brand is in decline. And at every of those 5 stages, there are behaviors that are particular to the season that your brand is in. And with those seasons come reactionary behaviors of your target market. You must be able to understand in real time when you're gaining traction and when you're losing it. So for me, data analysis and PR help you to understand your target audience. It also helps you in monitoring and measuring, which my sister there already spoke very passionately about. Then it helps you with the social media analytics. There's a reason today when you go on, if you're on LinkedIn and you post something, in 1 week you can come back and see how many people engaged with what you posted. It doesn't only look at it breaks engagement into actual people who read it, and people who shared it, and people who looked at it and were going to come back to look at it later, so that you understand in real time that the interest that you have. Then it helps you with media monitoring, and the other part is sentimental analysis. Most times we confuse media analysis with sentimental analysis. They're 2 different things. And when you focus only on your media metrics, you may not be able to tell if people are emotionally buying into what you're doing. And the reason why sentimental analysis is so important is because inside of sentimental analysis, you have social social media monitoring. You have your brand monitoring. You have your voice of customer monitoring. You have your customer service research. Then, of course, you have the market research. Then the final 2 points there you must note that or think that will help our organizations. For me, very key for those of us who are in PR, data-driven storytelling, where we are able to use all the points that we find, the numbers, how they are positive, make them into animations, so that 60 seconds people come to your messaging platform and they can know what Uganda National Oil, how many customers is reaching in real time, how many wells they have, in things like that. You know, then finally, data would help us as communications people to optimize our PR strategy. Always remember this. Communication or public relation or going out with a message is not because you have a message. It's because you have an objective. And that objective is tied to your organization's vision statement or the business that you do or your why. So we don't rush because we have a beautiful message. We always have to sit down and be able to link that message to the reasons why we do what we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ken. So now that brings us to the panelists here. Now I'll start with Steve. Please respond to the questions that were directed straight to you.
Yeah.
And after that, you conclude as we go.
Okay. Super. So thanks. So I'll speak to, I think there were about 3 that came my way. The first one was from Victor of NSSF, where you are saying, you know, how do you ensure that your things make sense to the audience? And I think the thing that you need to do is to humanize your communication. I am a saver within NSSF. I am among those who get confused when I see their profit ratios and what have you. Yet I did finance at university. Like confused in the sense that, okay, I'll see them and then, my life will continue. Now, I think as an example, Victor, you guys have recently bought into Airtel, right? And MTN. Now, whenever Airtel is going to do 5G, be there. So that you can show me that my savings are working to expand Airtel's network and build more 5G or MTN. Because then there I can see a direct relation of my money working, you know? So I think that aspect of humanizing the benefits so that they can speak to me, because inherently as human beings we are selfish. That is who we are. We care about, in Uganda for my East African people, in Funirawa. Okay, yeah, kale. So I hope I've answered you, Victor. To Vianney supplements, I will still continue to say there are better ways of doing it. And I might seem hypocritical because Centenary is doing 40 years and in December you'll say supplement because I lost the battle. But I still believe they're not very, very... Vianney, if it's about the stakeholders, there are forums like the PS Forum where you can go and present CAA's thing and you actually get traction. There are so many things that you can do because when you do a 40-page supplement at CAA and I go to the airport and there's no TP in the toilet, I'll say, this guy's here, you know? So I think you can do other things that don't seem like they are wasteful, especially because, end of the day, as taxpayers, we are very skeptical of our government that we love to a great degree. And then lastly, I think there was a question from PRAU, the gentleman from PRAU, big data. I think the great thing about big data is that it speaks to what I think Sabra and I have been talking about, understanding your audience. What it does is that it allows you to mine at a deeper level, at a granular level, and understand your audience quite intimately. As PR practitioners, we are moving away from intuitive-based strategies, whereby you say, okay, I get the feeling that if I speak in Luganda, possibly in Central, they'll understand me, to now more understanding the age of the people, if they're educated or not, etc., their likes. I'll end with one which I think was quite on the spot. Ian mentioned that there's nyege nyege happening in Jinja. And I think there's a company which has done quite well in my view. They are promoting or communicating their lifestyle kit, which is an HIV self-test kit, condoms, and I think something else. I think that's pretty cool, because at Nyege Nyege, usually people are quite rowdy. And you're going to say, guys, here's my product. I give you HIV kit, condoms, and I know what happened. That is, I think, a better way of doing it, as opposed to putting an ad in a billboard and hope that you speak to the audience. In conclusion, I thank you all for listening to me. To those that have offended, I am sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are still here. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Sabra. It's your turn.
Okay, I'll be very brief, but please come and see me at tea break if you want more details. To the young lady who was asking about free tools to do measurement, there's plenty online. I can share some links with you that you can do surveys, you can do calculation for analytics available, but I'm also a big advocate for getting young people to come and work for you. If you have a little allowance budget, get interns who are doing monitoring and evaluation studies or fresh graduates and let them work with you to do some of these things. And to the young lady back there who was asking about biases in internal feedback from employees who are for and against the company, we are always going to get people who are for and against the company. When we do surveys to talk to our employees, we need to make it anonymous so that they're comfortable, because we know some companies do have consequences for people who do speak out. So to protect their identity, you make it anonymous. And the best thing to do is to be transparent. Pick up the themes of what the sentiment of your employees is like and talk about what you're going to do to fix that problem. That it shows that you have heard what worries them and you're going to act on it. So that's one of the things that you can handle that. But transparency is key, and we're talking more about ethics tomorrow, so come to that session. And for the gentleman who asked about knowledge management, one of the biggest things we face as communicators is we don't have time. We don't have time to do reports. We don't have time to do reports on how we are performing in our communication. But one of the organizations I worked for, we used to do short 2 to 3 page reports on how our campaigns did and what we need to do better. So if you have software to store information, like some companies will use SharePoint, for example, this is where we stored information on past campaigns. So it didn't matter who worked on that campaign after you have left the company, the incoming communication staff are able to access that information and get the material review from the organization. And I think I finished the 3 that I could have addressed.
You have finished, you have exhausted them. Thank you, Sabra. Magnifique.
Mine will be brief. The question from Victor. I know you are also running financial education campaigns. I do follow your activities. Basically here for the B2C campaigns, you have to understand your audience. For this case, let me share with you a very short example. Last weekend on Saturday, we had a campaign targeting Rwandans living in Nordics around Sweden, Denmark. Then our audience was a bit advanced in terms of financial literacy. So in that case, our message was customized. We did a comparison. Let's say when you invest in bond, it's how much in shares. We put there also a column for inflation. So it was an advanced presentation to grab their attention. But when you are engaging a common citizen, you just inform them about the basic information, let's say the interest rate or the minimum investment. So in this case, as it was highlighted by all speakers here, you have to do research before launching your campaign and understand your audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to conclude?
You did very well. Let's appreciate the panel.
Thank you very much.
You did very well. And thank you very much. Much appreciated. Maybe a group photo here with the panelists and the moderator. So how do we responsibly take on this power and utilize it very well? Digital has given us the power. The other day I was discussing, I think today, discussing with Solomon. I hope, Solomon, you speak to content. I don't know, what's your topic? Content. Today Solomon has a Twitter space on menopause. Menopause with a bank. Yes. And they are discussing inclusivity within a workspace. Content is changing. What do people want to hear? The other thing is that I have a young man, I mentor, he's from MultiChoice. Is he here? Yes. He just moved to the people. He has a board report for MultiChoice. As we come back from the break, if he doesn't mind, he flashes the executive summary. Have you heard of executive summary? It is not English. It is what the board wants to see and want to know, with numbers. I sell iron sheets. Before that, I was selling taxation with Sarah Wanagi. Now she's in oil. The voice of the board is different from different organizations. How many of us have performance indicators for our plans to measure success? The performance indicators I had for Uganda Revenue Authority are so different from the iron sheet guy. He's sales-oriented. He's not about service for now. He's not about, but I want to speak what he desires. 80% is sales. So the first thing I did is to go to the market. Visit the market, visit taxpayers, visit the clients, and then I come back and flash and show you how roofing our competitors are doing. Definitely they are sleeping. Then I show the progress on how we have tracked and be able to put them hands down. Then I become relevant, isn't it? The next time the board is calling, they say, where is this head corporate affairs? The last time you showed us statistics you wanted to hear. In the region, in the export market, how are we performing? So you can't speak to 5 press releases. Not anymore. Things have changed. Menopause is what we are discussing. And he will speak to why menopause is going to be relevant to PR than speaking about 5, 10 press releases. No more. We don't want to know that. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a short break. That short break is going to take 30 minutes. We are back here. The next presentation is from Uganda National Oil Company, a case study for 10 minutes, and then we dive into a discussion on technology and PR practice and social media opportunities and challenges. None other than Solomon Seranja. Thank you very much.
It's really lean. I started with creating very clear and consistent brand identities in-house, ourselves. Simple things like standardizing our email sign-off so that we all have the same thing. Standardizing every publication in the institution, be it PowerPoints, be it envelopes, be it the envelopes, the letterheads. So we standardized font, what size we wanted it, and we did all that in-house because that was the space we're in. We could not have consultants, we couldn't have manuals, brand guidelines and all that, but we started small. You standardize everything in your area. You want it to look like this, you want everybody to walk like this, you want the shop to look like this. We standardize everything in our space, in-house. That's what you do when you have a lean budget. Then we created a very lean business plan because you need a plan. When the year starts, what's your plan? So we created a very lean plan. And what I know, how we've done this, you know, there's so many things we want to achieve in a year, but we have been biting this elephant chunk by chunk. Every quarter, we say we will do one thing. What will we do? This quarter, we are going to make sure we achieve this right. Is there something we can change as soon as we walk into our space in the office? We do that. the displays on the wall, the things we are talking about, one thing at a time, small, one at a time. So we do very lean business plans so that we can be able at the end of a year to see what we did in the 4 respective quarters, small, but at the end of the year, those 4 little things are at least 4 things you can show management that with the lean budget, we've been able to do things. So we have had lean business plan created and shared different things every quarter, eating the huge elephant of branding, building this brand little by little. And then the winner was here. And I want to first of all introduce these people because they're in this room. We recruited a talented team. I have, my whole team is here. This is the first time we've all moved together. And like you said, someone talked about data, why our digital team is doing very well. We have to justify. They have enabled us to come here, so we are on the platforms showing what's going on here, so that next year we don't have to really struggle. So I moved with my team here. Angela, can you please stand up? Laura Hubbard. Angela, Laura, and Hubbard. Yeah, now Angela, Laura, and Hubbard, I want to introduce these first 3. They sit at the headquarters. Then I have 2 powerful community liaison officers. There is Sandra and Robert. Those guys are special. You know why? They are 2 and they handle the entire Albertine Graben. This is in the community. For those of you who are not from here, oil and gas is being developed in Hoima, the districts there, and then the pipeline is going through 10 districts. I have 2 guys. All they have is loyalty and dedication, and that's how we are able to survive. And then, in addition, after these 3 in Kampala, those 2 in Hoima, I then have the graduate trainee, the lady doing a perfect job, the one justifying why we are here. Angel, I want you to stand up. So that's Angel. Yeah. So I was talking about recruiting a dedicated, talented team. They didn't all come at once. And it's not that they have come in bits and pieces, but they find what we have, they work with it, and when you recruit real people, team build with them, make them your friends, give them feedback on performance, you stay with them. I thank you, team, for being there for me. Then, what else have we done? So, team, we have a lean budget, we've been consistent in-house, then we deploy low-cost advertising channels. Things like social media platforms, those are low-cost advertising channels. Things like using the staff. We use our staff. Don't forget we started there. We use our staff to do the mouth-to-mouth. They actually are brand ambassadors. They very readily tell you what we do. They very readily tell you what the projects are about and what the cost will be. So we use our staff. We've deployed them. But then we also partnered with some big boys. We've partnered with some big boys. In our case, because the project co-op location is up country in Hoima, we partnered with the Bunyoro Kitara Kingdom. They are the ones that are known. I mean, people love their traditional leaders. So this is an entire kingdom we partnered with. And so every time they have anniversary, coronation ceremonies, rallies, whatever it is, we are there. Just being there, you know, we appreciate what they're doing. We could go with 2 boxes of water, I remember. We could go with some water. But right now, at least we have established that relationship with the entire kingdom, traditional kingdom, in an area where we are operating to develop these oil and gas projects. So that people see we recognize and appreciate their traditional leadership. You partner with big brands. We've partnered with the Kabakaran, we've partnered with MTN, people who are bigger than us. We've partnered. My bosses are also in this room. The regulator is my boss. They're in this room. The Minister of Energy, I saw them earlier. The representative from there, those are my bosses. So we partner with our big brothers, we partner with joint venture partners, the people who are in this industry to develop, the huge investors, Total Energies, Sinok. We partner with the big brands because I'm here to explain what you can do when you're small, but you can get leverage and build your brand. And then I talked about digital. Then we also have structures in government. Government has structures. We have the ICT ministry. We never stop thanking them because they give us free airtime and we utilize it. You've had us in some spaces, people ask you, so what are you doing with this radio station, with this radio station? That radio station is still running because it's in business. It means it has an audience. We never feel too proud to go and talk to them via that radio station. And the system, the government of Uganda system, has created that ministry to aid you if you have small budgets to use those stations because they have leverage over them. So we deployed several law advertising channels. Never be afraid to negotiate. Can you imagine? You can even negotiate at Sheraton. You can even negotiate at Serena. You negotiate. It's not everything that's at the red card goes by that. So when you're beginning, those are things you can do to save money, to do other things, and yet they will help you. And don't forget the people you started with. The people who have walked with us when we're small are people who are enjoying life when we are big. So humble beginnings are very important. You partner and network with us, we negotiate, and then we make use of existing structures. I thought I should just give these simple things so that we don't sit folding our hands saying there is no budget, because it's good to have money, but it's also good to start small and grow into it. My bosses, I didn't introduce you. My boss over there, Solomon, I can see you from the Ministry of Energy. Then the regulator, the entire regulator, they are here. Those are our supervisors. We do a lot of work together. We have group platforms. We share expenses, challenges, and that's how we manage to keep this sector growing. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Working with the little you have to make magic out of it. Thank you, Sarah. Let's appreciate Sarah one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, I think UNOC is doing a great job. And you also have been doing a good job in the industry, Sarah. We are proud of you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the next panel, which we have already discussed, and reason why Solomon is here. Solomon, please, Seranja, you're welcome. I don't know if you have his profile. Solomon Seranja has been in the media industry, in communications, for quite some time now. Maybe he will mention that I also mentored him in communications, isn't it? In public relations, especially when he was joining the private sector. And we did a lot of things together, and we still do a lot of things together. And Solomon is going to take us through a very interesting topic, technology and PR, but specifically focusing on PR practice and social media. What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? How do we awaken the elephant in the room? Earlier on, we are talking about statistics of the target group we are facing. I think UBOS, I don't know if UBOS is in the house. Did you see the statistics they released? 57.7% of Ugandans are below 19 years. 57.7. 14% of Ugandans are between 0 and 4 years. So as communicators, do you know these statistics? Who are you communicating to? So Solomon is going to dive deep into some of those things and the issues we are facing currently. The landscape is changing, content is changing. He has a Twitter space on menopause. How did you even come up with that? I just want to understand. How are you going to discuss menopause with a bank at 5:30? I think we would have finished our sports thing, so we'll listen in, Solomon. I know you're rushing back to Kampala to do that. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Solomon also is escorted by able people, able panelists, Mercy Randa, who is a founder and CEO of P&L Consulting from Kenya. Mercy, you're welcome. Right away from the airport, Entebbe, and she's here, and you thank God you made it. Mercy, thank you for coming and making it. Let's appreciate. Karibuni sana. By the way, I know Swahili. It's not the Panda Gali business. Oyuki Faustin. Of course, Oyuki has become a celebrity on this panel. PR specialist from Tanzania. But this PR specialist, Oyuki, this time around, break it down a bit. Huh? Tell us what's in this PR specialist. Oyuki does so many things in Tanzania, so he's going to tell us why is he called a PR specialist. Kenneth Gutamba, Head Reputation and Communications. Kenneth has a wide experience in journalism and communications. I think Kenneth, I don't know if people know that you worked with the Bank of Kigali. You know? He told you? Yes. He's so proud of that company and organization from Rwanda. So he has vast experience from Rwanda and Uganda. So Solomon, I'll probably give you the floor and take us through. By what time is it? You just have 1 hour to discuss this, then we have 15 minutes to have a Q&A session, and then we call it a day. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Hello, how are you? Great, I'm really privileged to be here. Today I have learned a lot. Trust me, being in this session or this class, I'm going back with a lot. Sarah, thank you for those tips. I've been live sending them to my team, so they already have it. I just had to put everything you said into our WhatsApp group, and that speaks about technology. I need to mention that technology is changing, and we just can't fight it anymore. That's a conversation that we're having in the newsroom and in the media spaces. Before, we used to wait for news at 9. And at that time, I would put on my suits and say, everyone is going to be watching me on either NTV Tonight or NBS Live at 9. And we will all get excited that we're giving people information. Right now, that has changed. Before, we used to boast that the media was setting the agenda of community discussion. In fact, we have a whole theory in journalism called the agenda setting theory. People are challenging that theory, that it's no longer what it used to be. The media is not necessarily leading that agenda. You know why? Because social media is here with us. People share everything. We literally, our lives are, what we post on the internet or online is a clear representation of who we are. I don't need time to research and to investigate you here in the room. I'll just get to know your name. I just take a deep dive into you. Leave a lot of digital footprints to give you away, your husband, your children, where you work, what are your interests, what you did. And that's where we are right now. The internet is here, social media is here. Right now, you guys have the budgets. You used to give mainstream media 100% of the budget. Right now, you're actually splitting that to cater in social media influencers. You have all the digital platforms to sell that. And technology continues to evolve, because right now we're discussing artificial intelligence. We are discussing augmented reality. We are talking about virtual reality. So what opportunities do these platforms come with to actually reinforce our narrative or our conversations for some of us who are in the public relations space? And that is going to anchor our conversation today. So with that background, you'll allow me take my seat so that we can start, right? Thanks. Karibu sana, karibu tena. I don't know. Okay, let me use the mic. Thanks. Mercy, let me just start with you. Welcome to Uganda. I hope we are treating you well. Social media. Public relations is largely about managing relations, perception, and leading narratives. What opportunities does social media come with to support our PR strategy? Let me start with you, Mercy.
Thank you, Solomon. I don't know if you can hear me on this. I actually prepared just 2 slides that will pretty much set a really good foundation. I gave it to the guys at the back. And the first slide basically just answers the question, or like, we're in the, thank you, yeah. How is it contributed to the evolution of PR, so to speak? Where are we right now? And for me, 3 things come to mind. The first thing is that, of course, when it comes to developing communication strategies, while previously we were moving more with development as an art, because it was heavy story. Right now, there's a lot, thank you. Right now, there's a lot of emphasis on, just analysis and measurement just before you get into the development of the strategy. So just even before you go to social media, there's just the appreciation of technology and how technology is contributing to public relations or just communication as a whole. So it's really enhanced the strategy development process, which gives it a more scientific outlook in terms of when you're putting together your strategies, you start from a point of what are we working with, what do we know? And what do we know means you have to put in all your analytical tools, all your listening tools. You have to go out there and just feel like whatever, if you are starting from point A last time, and now you want to review if whatever you had previously has worked, then you have to start, how do you know it's worked? You have to have some measurement kind of process. So this technology has really enhanced how we used to measure. If there are guys who've practiced in the room for over 20 years, you know that how we used to measure previously, you'd use a ruler and count the columns to know, and it was heavily, what's the PR value, which used to be like a formula of advertising value equivalent. Right now, that's not what you're looking at. You're not looking for PR value in terms of advertising value equivalent. You're looking at sentiments, you're looking at the undertones, you're looking for how do you measure all of that? So the technology has really helped us in terms of just being able to measure this, right? So when you're looking at social media, you have to start from a point of not just the social media properties, but what technology is offering. So that's one. The second thing is with the digital measurement tools, it can also give you real-time analysis, right? And the real-time analysis, of course, can as a decision maker, you know whether to react at this point or later. It also helps to just have like a more accurate strategy when you're going out there. And the third thing now specifically to social media is, and this I'll come to later, where the same way you're saying, you used to be on TV and everybody would be anticipating to watch at a certain hour. All the budgets for communication would go to legacy media. Right now, you turn around and everybody's a publisher, right? They do not have to go to any journalism training, right? So even the way that the public and the audience is interacting with information has really been changed, okay? And this is largely because of the social media platforms, because there's so many, and publishing has become even wider. So well, previously you'd wait for maybe the national, really came from the national stations to the private stations now building and budding all over the country. Now everyone with a smartphone or a computer can be a publisher. All you need to know is just be able to access even just a little bit of information, give it your own twist, and it's out there. And it's posed some challenges, which I think when you come to speak to it, I'll pull up the slide for that. But then in a nutshell, this is where I feel technology has placed us as communicators in the three buckets at the moment.
Yeah, thanks. You really hinted on something we'll talk about later about measuring. Measurement is a very, very critical part of the social media conversation. I'll tell you this because I know I host Twitter Spaces literally every evening. But Twitter gives you real-time analytics of how many people are on that Twitter space, from where, what were the dominant frames. If you are using a hashtag, it can cumulatively tell you who are speaking from where. And with that, it can help you to know your audience better, who listened in from where, and how better will you approach them next time. But let me come to you, or you, Karibu Tena, welcome to Uganda.
Asante sana.
Let's talk about social media. I know many of us here, by the way, for starters, all of us are on Twitter, all of us are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, just to be sure. Okay. All right. The fact that at least many of us know these platforms how do we strategically put our branding and messaging on these social media platforms to the audiences that we want to appeal to? Karibu.
Asante sana. Niendelee kwa Kiswahili.
Tuzungumze.
You know, the problem that I can analyze that in Swahili, they strategically putting the content on the social media in Swahili. Let me proceed in English. You know, social media now has, for me, as I analyze it, I see it having 4 major lines. One, the first line, you know, we in our communication, we used to have, like, I want to do a call to action. A call to action was meant from we communicators to our audience. But now, with the social media, the paradigm has changed. Even audience can make an institution, can make us peer, have an action against or to whatever they want. I can give an example. I think everyone is aware of the KFC proposal. KFC proposal was in South Africa, but it was a proposal between Mr. Mkani and Nonshasha. South Africans called KFC for action, called big companies and big brands in South Africa for action. And at the end of the day, these 2 couples had a very glamorous engagement and wedding. You can Google that. You can see that is the impact of the social media. Apart from being on our side that we have to be strategic, but even our audience can be strategic on us, that we want these big brands to act against our wishes or on our wishes. There is another example also of a 3 years girl smiling, holding a bread. Social media people came out and they called to action of that company and they did something. So in that angle, you find that even strategies for communication might not necessarily come from within. Sometimes the drivers might be our audience. Another perspective that I see is on the closeness of our audience and our brands. Social media has made our audience closer, has brought them closer than than how we can expect. I can give you an example. I was consulting with one of our conservation area in Tanzania. There are indigenous who are living in that area. It's the Ngorongoro Conservation Authority. Indigenous, they are in there, they are living parallel to animals, wildlife. So they are in there. I asked them one day, you are in Ngorongoro, but why are you opting to post an incident that happened in here to a social media while you can approach the office? The office is just few meters away. You can just approach it. I was amazed by the answer. That is very far than posting on the social media. So you see how the paradigm has changed. So if they post on the social media, they are sure that 1, action will be taken, 2, bureaucracy will be laid out, and so forth and so forth. And on the very bad side of it, much as we become very strategic on advancing our contents and everything, but at times social media becomes very undemocratic. If you're following social media trends on this globally, and if you're following the current issues in Gaza and Israel, know some of the people don't want to discuss this issue, but with me, I'm free to discuss it. This occasion has costed someone's contract. There's a player from Mainz in Germany, El Ghazi Anwar. Because of giving his opinion and position on the occasion, his contract was terminated because it was on social media. So at times, it's like a double sword. There is a good thing, and at the same time, it's taken on the other side. I think I can end up there. Then if there is something else I can discuss.
Asante sana mheshimiwa. So it's a double-edged sword, for lack of a better word. Would love to look at that in this conversation, the good side and the bad side, right? Let's start with the brand positioning. And Kenneth, let me bring you in. Social media is the digital face of the organization. And therefore, the brand that I think Sarah was talking about must be visibly seen on social media. You know, people used to take, sometimes I'm disgusted by reading some posts and there are spelling mistakes in a post. Someone took a picture with their phone, which is not very nice, maybe a Nokia. Okay, so sorry. Let me recall that. I've taken it back. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, like a picture with not good lighting, something that you think, what does this speak to this brand? The sentence construction, the English, some people pay attention to detail, like, did you really think through this post? So I wanted you to speak to us about taking social media seriously. And in our content that we post, we no longer just take videos, a Zoom video like this and you post it. It has now to be professional, really done very well, that it portrays the brand. So I wanted you to speak to us in this room how important it is for us to pay attention to the branding that we take to the social media and eventually to our audience.
With your permission, I want to start with acknowledgement in this room. I'm very humble this morning because my former lecturer is in the room. I want to recognize Mr. Sam Apedel over there.
Sam!
Yes. So I know many of you have gone through his hand. So that leads me to the next point. Henry, on day one, you expressed worry that you don't see the next generation of PR practitioners. But I think this morning you should be happy because Sarah introduced a graduate trainee. Ian talked about somebody he's mentoring. Sam is here watching his students speak on a panel. I think you like what we have here, right? So let's clap for that. I am going to come to your question, but allow me to contribute to the context you started with. Very many years ago, a very bright philosopher, Karl Marx, said that the production of so many useful things leads to so many useless people. The production of so many useful technologies could, if not, managed carefully, lead to so many useless PR managers. So then the question for us this morning is, how do we leverage these PR technologies, including social media, to make ourselves more useful instead of them rendering us useless? And I also want us to go back to some of the things that are probably not going to change. The definition of PR has not changed in spite of the technologies. Who remembers the traditional definition of PR? Without wasting time, I'll give you the traditional one that I remember, which is that our job on a daily basis, the reason we are paid, is to identify, establish, and manage mutually beneficial relations with people or groups who have potential to harm or promote our business, right? You can add other definitions, but at the core of our job, that's it. Publics. Now, publics, in our context, it's never one public. It's publics because these are different stakeholders. So, essentially, I guess what different PR technologies have done is that they have improved the efficiency with which we manage these different PR or publics or stakeholders or audiences or groups. You can call them different names. And I'll probably give you a couple of examples. I will speak especially from my context. At Ian, you mentioned, I love mentioning Bank of Kigali because I'm proud of the work we did there, just like you are proud of the work you did at URA. And now I'm proud of the work we are doing at Stambik. So the PR function, we don't call it PR, but at Stambik we call it communication and reputation management. So the context there is that we take care of internal communication. We have over 2,000 people or staff. Then we also take care of course, external affairs. This is where a lot of the external parties come. Customers, investors, because we are a listed company, media, all these groups are part of the external base. And then we also manage reputation. Reputation is sort of an outcome of how you do all these other things. And I'll tell you how, your question will come at the end because the way I've organized my thoughts, I think the answer will be more useful at the end. I'll give you a snapshot of how we are leveraging technology to manage the internal PR. Let me give you an example of staff. I've told you we have a public inside Stambik of 2,000 people. So how are we using the emerging technologies to work with them? Goes back to the point where we started. Technologies, social media is just a tool. It's not a strategy. So have a strategy around your internal communication. A strategy is like a road. You know the end destination. You want to go to Masaka. Now, there are several options of you getting to Masaka. You could, from your house to the main road, because the road is very bad, you will walk. That's the first tactic. When you get to the main road, you get a boda. It will take you to the park. At the park, you'll get into a taxi, which will drive you to Masaka. So those are tactical decisions you have to make, but the strategy is that you're going to use road transport to get to Masaka. Not air, not boat, because there's no water body between your place and Masaka. Not air, because you can't afford, what's that company in Kajansi? That runs, small domestic flights. You can't afford, so you choose, you'll use the road. So technologies are part of your tactical mix, but the strategy is clear in your mind. And yesterday, I think we made that point. So for our internal PR strategy around staff is to keep a highly motivated and engaged staff. They speak up, they are free to share information, and we have an open information sharing culture. So how do we use technology inside Stambik to achieve that? We have what we call Love Radio, which is virtual radio, really. So we have a studio, we set up, we have a presenter, we have a playlist, we have a guests, we have a whole radio broadcast lineup. And then the listeners, who are our staff, they dial in using Teams. So we have this occasionally in a quarter, when our group CEO is visiting. Instead of visiting the entire country, you can just organize an internal Love Radio, which is a technology platform, and you speak to everyone. You ask him what is your favorite music, you put it on a playlist, you play it, they connect. We have Yama. Yama is like, because I know for a lot of you guys, you know that companies restrict how much external social media you can access. So Yama is what you'd call the alternative of Facebook. So inside, we allow our staff to share experiences from across the network. We have over 80 branches. Now, the CEO may spend a whole year without going to all of them, but we are a small community brought together using Yama by posting and sharing experiences on that internal platform. But beyond the staff, inside we also have EXCO, Executive Management, the CEO's committee. This is another small, tiny public for the PR manager. So what I use technology to manage them is that data-based insights, which the previous panel talked about. I'm able to have monthly check-ins with the CEO to tell her that when we had that Twitter space with Solomon Serwanja, this is the traction we got. These are the sentiments that came out, so that you bring them closer to the business you do internally. I'll skip the investors, but you know things like AGM via virtual platforms, especially during COVID. The challenge is on governance. How do you manage 2,000 people from not misusing social media platforms? And sort of this speaks into your question, because you see the conduct of our people sometimes really, influences how your brand is perceived on the outside. You've dealt with internal leakages. Something is not yet ready for the public, but somebody has taken a screenshot and sent it to a boyfriend who is a senior investigative reporter in a TV or newspaper. And I'm not talking about you, Solomon, just an example. Yeah, but so the challenge is real. Even as you educate, you popularize, and you deploy these tactical technologies to promote your internal PR strategies, you have to educate. You have to be at the vanguard of educating your people to use these platforms with care and caution. Now, externally, quickly, we have media. Now, externally, I'll talk about two groups broadly. Media and clients. Yesterday I said your best reputation manager is a satisfied customer, not a well-paid influencer. If you have a crisis and your customers are happy, they will be on your case and make an argument for you. So when you look at media, how technologies have enabled us to do a good job, three fronts really. One is media relations. When I was in Sama Pedel's class, we talked about mass media. Today, mass media has shifted to niche media. Niche, in a way, it's targeted. I'll mention 5 radio stations, and in your mind, you'll know that they speak to different audiences. Kiss FM, Capital FM, UBC. You know that in your mind, I'll put a message here to speak to that group, a message here to speak to that group. So technologies have decimated, they have disrupted the media as we knew it, and you alluded to it. So because of this, now influencers that we talked about yesterday, sometimes I categorize them as small micro media platforms. So I put them in the media mix, and I apportion a budget when we are doing media buying decisions, which is the other aspect I want to talk about. Media relations, you have to keep an evolving, what we call press mailing list. You have people in the mainstream, you have people on different platforms, so your mailing list has to evolve with these technologies. Then media buying, because we no longer have what you would call mass media, you have to know which are the other emerging platforms and how can I buy into them. And then finally, on media monitoring. So you would know that right now we no longer have mass media, but we do have targeted media. So we have social listening, which is now an emerging tool to enable us to know who is talking about us, where, and what are they saying. These voices in the past used to be very difficult. Now, depending on what people are saying, then you go to the question, which is how do you show up? Because you have all this insight, the social listening is on point, you're able to predetermine the messaging of, building into the data that you've collected. And earlier, a lady asked who invests in monitoring and research. We pay Ipsos on a monthly basis. My report for October just came through. We get insights, and you base on that to really determine a lot of these decisions in strategy and tactical decisions. So social listening is helping us to determine what sort of message do you put in different platforms. And how do you show up? So we have a governance process around messaging in Stanbic Bank. You could be the only person in your organization managing PR, but create a group where you have a pair of other eyes to proofread messages. Because trust me, we handle a lot of things. It's very easy for a typo to escape. So before a message goes out, we have a group, we have a screening platform where people have to look at a message, we sense check it, listen to the tone, check the grammar, and
Right.
make sure that it's right before it goes out, and that helps us to look good on the outside. Thank you very much.
All right, Ken, thanks. Thanks for sharing with that. Yeah, looking good on the outside. I'll both be a panelist, but also I'll be a moderator. You'll allow me to play like you did. We just talked a little bit about looking good on the outside. For many of you who manage your social media pages, I wanted to share one or two, three things for you on putting out these posts. The first one is the picture. What is the picture profile on your social media account? Is it the logo? Is it your team? It pays detail. What is the header? For example, let's talk about Twitter. What's that header? And I think Sarah talked about uniform branding. What I've done with the Institute, I've told everyone to have a header with the Institute. So that even, you work for the Institute, so that means you carry the brand of the Institute. So there's the official company Twitter page or Facebook page or whatever. Please pay attention to the picture on the profile and the header. 2, when you're putting out your tweet, please put a nice picture. People love nice pictures. So I hope you have your professional photographers who take pictures. So come up with a folder where you dump all the pictures that you've taken from the field that you can go back and repurpose. 3, professional videos, please. Please put nice, edited, well videos. They speak a lot about your brand. 4, your language. Construct it. What I encourage PR people to do is do a tweet thread or tweet plan for the entire week. So write them, open Google or Google Docs or a document. Day 1, these are my postings. And then you take them through to someone to do the second eye, so that if there's any English or grammar to sort, then you can be able to sort it. 3, do not open your page as Solomon Serwanja with that of the Institute. You will end up posting your content on the official Twitter handle for your brand, and you will be in very, very, very big trouble. We've seen this happen a lot. But let me come back to my panel. I just wanted to share those few tips on looking good. Mase, let me come to you. You had a second slide that talked about leveraging on the social media platforms to push our PR. We wanted to give you a second or two to explain to that. Can we put Mase's second slide up, please?
As you're putting that, I think just what I wanted to point out is, as PR practitioners in the room, one thing we need to appreciate is the way we look at social media and the way we use social media is very different from how maybe our colleagues in advertising would use social media, how our colleagues in marketing will use social media. We're all in the same institution, but then their use and basically even what they use it for is very different. For PR practitioners, I think for us, we usually would say we have like 2 big headaches when it comes to social media. The first one is, are you in control of your agenda, right? Are you in control of your agenda? Because every waking day, you find that you wake up in the morning and yesterday perhaps you're talking about one thing. Within an hour, the agenda has changed. Have you been the one to change the agenda, or somebody else has changed the agenda for you? So which means the plan that you had perhaps has totally changed and you're not in control of it anymore. So that's, for PR, that's what I think, like being in control of your agenda is one of the many headaches that you have every working day. The second thing is storytelling, which is a positive side, right? On the storytelling, I think you also want to look at how creative are you with your storytelling and what's your reach, okay? Now for those ones, you can delve deeper into the tactics you use for each. And I know we've been warned about the time so that we can go into deeper. But then just before I go to the slide, I think one thing I also need to highlight is on PR side, more often than not, and I think we can even hear it from the floor, usually what will give you a headache as a PR practitioner on the digital platform is the conversations. And if you monitor very closely, you'll see that more often than not, mainstream conversation is what will influence the digital dialogues. Say, for example, you open the newspaper today and there's a scandal in the newspaper. Whatever is in the newspaper today is what's going to carry the day, and everybody will chime in with their opinion and everything. So as a PR person, what you want to do as much as possible is be in control of the mainstream content, what's going to be said over there, so that even when it spills over to digital and you're not like fully in control from every corner, at least you're able to control the first installment of the information that went out. Strategically, that's how I'd probably look at it. But I mean, we were talking about now social media and what it means for PR practitioners. Of course, I mentioned about the way everybody right now is a publisher, right? You wake up, you have 1,000 Twitter followers, you post something, maybe Stanbic is about to issue a profit warning, and somebody has gone and speculated why the profit warning is. They have 1,000 followers, it's already news. So then what? They've taken an agenda away from you, and you're running up and down to take it back, right? And if you look at how many, it could be somebody with 400 followers, but then somebody else with 100,000 followers retweeted, right? So that's what I mean when I say everybody's a publisher. Misinformation is rewarded by fame. And what I mean by this is who's fast to market with information. The information they're fast to market with sometimes is not accurate. But just the fact that you're the one who's breaking the news, and then you get all these retweets and everyone. Every time, whenever somebody comes to view, who was the first one to start this hashtag? It was this person. Was it factual, whatever they said? Was it factual or not? It wasn't. So these are some of the things we need to be aware about. Like we said, the agenda it's constantly moving. In the morning you wake up, you've just launched a new product. By midday, a customer has complained about something, and then now you dump whatever you launched in the morning, trying to solve whatever the customer is saying. You launch maybe a partnership with Stanbic and Airtel. In the afternoon, somebody says their account was wiped out. Another one has come in. Even mine was wiped out last year. I've been following up. And then whatever agenda you had in the morning, you bench it and move on to this new crisis. So those are some of the things. This is where social media is putting us as practitioners, and we need to be aware about. Then the other thing about facts. Facts is what the social media person says it is, right? If I come and say the sky is yellow, it's up to you to come and prove that it's not yellow, but this is my truth. I've already started, the sky is yellow. So then you have to come and, well, how do you, it puts you in a very precarious space of, do I argue with this person who says the sky is yellow, or do I stick to what I have to be doing? And in arguing with them, how much investment do I put in it, and how tactical can I be so that I'm also not dragging the entire reputation of the institution together with this fight that I'm having with somebody who thinks the sky is yellow. And in all of that, remember that the internet does not forget. So a fight that you might have, or maybe something that you might have said as an institution 2 weeks ago, you want to walk it back, but you already put it on the internet. Screenshots will always be there, and they will come back.
Yeah.
So this is the environment for which we have to operate now as practitioners with all this technology.
All right.
Yeah.
Mercy, thanks. Mercy Rwanda, can we give her some love? Mercy, thank you. And maybe let me just pick it up from where Mercy left it. You wake up and there's a customer who is making a lot of noise. He has tweeted, the public has begun to retweet, speak. It's going viral. You're managing social media. Calls are coming in from your boss. There's pressure here, there's pressure there. Mainstream media is picking it up, and you're in this crisis. I want you to speak to us. How would you handle that crisis?
That crisis is hypothetical, right? So, anyway. An authentic social media, social media which provides message content that resonates to its audience, it will be easy to tackle that. And of course, if you are active always, it's not that you just post 2 posts and then you stay 2 months without posting, or within a month without posting. It will be difficult for people to follow you. Constantly being active on social media is very key to at least minimize such crises. And of course, you clients, your consumers, whom you have been saving all the way long, will be backing you. I'll give you an example, Solomon. Do you follow the Bazukulu series? You do follow, eh? I really follow the Bazukulu series. They are well articulated, crafted, and they have a punch to they have a punch of a message they want to send. And sometimes they come out of, when there is chaos, we see Bazukulu series is coming. For those who don't know Bazukulu series, Solomon will tell you. And at a time, I even saw a handwritten Bazukulu script. That was very strategic. I want to tell my people that I'm the one who is doing this. So when you come out to your audience, showing them that, okay, this is my responsibility, and I'm setting this focus, those kind of consumers and rumor mongers, at the end of the day, they will disappear by themselves. Lastly, you know, you said in the past time we used to wait until in the evening so that we can watch news, and you call your friends, say, go and watch me, I will be speaking, or I'll be doing 1-3. That was news on appointment. The televisions, or you're booking an appointment to the televisions that I will be coming to watch news at 8 p.m. But now, you don't need an appointment to get news. In a flash of a minute, you have news. So we have to be very careful with that, so that those crises shouldn't been entangling us.
Thanks, Ayuk. Thanks a lot. I hope we're learning something or two. I'm told I have 3 minutes left. I'll give 2 minutes of those to Ken. The messaging is changing. It's no longer about Stanbic Bank is the best bank. The message is, why should the public care about my messaging? How important is that?
Extremely important as it could be. And that's why at Stanbic, we have a 3-letter-led comms strategy. I don't mind sharing. You can make use of it in your contexts. So we really look at, but I'll just share one letter, which is impact communication. The other letter is T. I won't tell you what it stands for. R, I won't tell you what it stands for, but you know, I speaks to your question, which is impact communication. Why would somebody care? Our purpose as Stanbic Bank, for example, and you have your purpose, is Uganda is our home, we drive her growth. So every messaging, we try to keep it closer to that purpose. And how we bring it to life is impact communication. And what really is under impact communication is telling the stories or creating platforms where our customers can tell their stories to show how we are actually impacting their lives. That way, the people closer to them, listening and interacting with their stories, they can now start to care. Like, we've been dismantling the perception that Stanbic is for the rich, works with government, you know, these legacy issues. But now you'll find us in the villages working with circles, lending to them at 10%, in a market where everyone is saying interest rates are high, but we are giving money to farmers at 10%. And then we create platforms where these farmers are telling their stories, showing that through our partnerships we are changing their lives, and you know, they are able to produce more. the government is learning a lot from us as they implement the PDM, you know, parish development model. And Solomon, the short of it is that put the customer at the front of your stories and messaging, maybe people might care.
All right, thanks, Kenneth. People might care. My time is fast spent. Ian, as Ian comes, I just wanted to add on what Kenneth said. It is important for you in the PR space to answer that question. And we answer it in the media space. Why should the public care about the story that you're doing? If you were flipping through your phone, and you know, we are always flipping, why should I care that I should listen to you for a Twitter space of 2 hours? We need to go and address issues that communities, it's about communities that we serve. I'll give you a very example that Ian was talking about. Today I'm hosting a Twitter space with Standard Chartered. It's not even anything about the banking sector. You can imagine it's about menopause, menopause in the workspace. Where does menopause connect with banks? Otherwise, Standard Chartered would say, no, we're not interested. We want to just do a conversation on our premium banking. We just launched the other product and this product and this product. But they understand that when they get the people in to discuss, they're showing that we care. We care. We care that when women get to their menopause stage, it affects their work productivity. We care that many of the people on different boards are men. Why? We care that women in their 40s, 50s, 60s need to be supported. We care. The moment we understand that, then people will be there to listen to us, and then perhaps you can sell your messaging of the bank when you have that audience to listen to you and you portray yourself as a brand that actually cares about community, right? So I just wanted to add that too. I want to mention that when you're in a crisis, or they're attacking the brand and everything, calls are coming in from the board and from everywhere, my experience has been one, calm down. Please write that down. Calm down. Collect yourself, because in the thick of it, you'll make mistakes. You will rush and refute allegations and everything. The first thing is calm down. 2, get the facts. Right? Call that branch manager or call this person. Is what this person saying true? What are the facts? The one thing that you can never win against are facts. You can wrestle with them, but if it's a fact, you can never. And that works for both ways. If the other person lodging the complaint is a fact, then you have to find a way. And if you have your facts right, put them out. The last point from me, when you're in that crisis management communication zone of what do I do, please have people who speak for you. Have people who speak for you. Have a one Solomon Serwanja. Yeah. And say, you have your people who you will call and say, boss, the truth is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I need you to come through for me. You know, PR, there is the seen and the unseen, right? Especially during crisis communication. You must have people, spokespersons that are going to come and say, look, guys, you guys remember the whole cockroach at CJ's? It was a rat, sorry. It was a rat at CJ's. Yo, this is a food company. When you start seeing rats in food, it affects the brand. But I'm sure all of you here have been at CJ's at any of those points, right? And so people begin to fight for you. Yes, maybe you see that? Like, you must have someone who you reach out and say, I need your support on this, and then put out your communication and messaging. Where you need to say sorry, please do that. Sometimes it's also good to go back in and call and say, hi, this is Solomon from Stanbic or from this. Can we talk about it, right? Because the moment you know you're in wrong, then you cannot start pushing back and pushing back and pushing back. Sometimes external strategies are important. Victor, you call and say, Solo, yeah, let's talk about it. Come over to the bank. Let's settle things out. That customer will feel loved, and maybe later on you'll put out a picture. We had a meeting with this client. And, we've sorted some of those things. I speak for a living. Thank you for listening to this panel.
Nice.
Yeah, no,
Solomon.
questions, yeah. Yes.
In communications, there's a theory of two-way communication theory. And I'm giving you 10 minutes just to allow people ask you questions, and then the panel will answer.
Okay, questions. Ian, you wanna take the mic around?
Sure.
We have an extra microphone here. Okay, can see like 6 hands.
Okay, so let me start with Stephen here, then Angela.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Solomon, and the entire panel. These are brand-moving insights. My questions go to Kenneth, specifically. In the era of digital media and journalists who keep demanding, under media relations externally, how do you keep them engaged, away from them demanding advertising, brown envelopes, and goodies? So that the content you send them, they actually run it. Because sometimes you send it, they don't even acknowledge. How do you keep them engaged in an era where there are lean budgets, like Sarah said? The second question is internal communication. Disengaged staff. We have a small team of about 300 people, government employees. Anybody who works in government knows how we live. Their role come in 8 to 5. Any activity that has a public engagement or sensitization is for public relations. How do you keep them up on their toes to also help send the message across? Thank you.
Mercy and Ayuk will answer that. Thank you very much.
Now, Solomon,
right.
so you have 3 questions here and then we end. We
All
have
right.
Angela here. Speaking of menopause, let's give the chance to women. Angela here, then another one there. Let's give a chance to women so that they have a seat on the boardroom.
Thank you, Ian, but you might have to pay for that statement. No. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Angela from Uganda. I would like to send this question to the gentleman on the extreme right from Stanbic Bank. Could you please share your thoughts on how we can avoid running into trouble when it comes to data protection? Because with the urge to post or to use social media, we might end up putting out data that shouldn't go out. Case in point, where I work, we receive many of you. All of you are my stakeholders, by the way, in case you didn't know. We receive many of you who want to come to the dam and visit, the Bujagali Dam. However, I would very much want to post you that you were there. For some reason, I cannot because I need your image consent, yeah? I just cannot post your pictures on there, however nice it would be. So please clarify how we can avoid walking past that thin boundary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Angel, we have another lady here.
Thank you. Birarita is my name. This question goes to Simon. I believe some companies, organizations, they have faces to them. And for yours, for one to get to know your company, someone has to know Simon Seraja. So how can you strike a balance between your personal social media handles and then your organization social media handle?
Okay.
Thank you. My name is Ralph, Bank of Uganda. My question is to the whole panel. How do you deal with manufactured crisis, especially in the era of social media? I'll give you an example, and most of you know this. The Bank of Uganda went through a particularly turbulent time during the closure of Crane Bank. And we know, and some of you are here, we know that some people were paid to constantly attack the bank and its officials online. This involved posting their personal information, their home addresses, including their bank statements. So how do you, as PR officers, must you respond to manufactured crisis and propaganda actually? Must you respond to these manufactured crises? As having a conversation with Fisher, most people have clicked influencers where I can decide, I'm going to create an issue with Serwanja, and now I'll tell all of my people, these influencers have this terminology that they use. Push. Guys, let's push this hashtag. However, most of this is manufactured, Some of the anger may be justified, but most of this is manufactured. Nature abhors a vacuum, so you cannot say, keep quiet. How best and should you respond to manufactured crisis, or as Ian has put it, to propaganda? And I still remember the PR officers here who were paid to attack the bank, but we shall discuss that tomorrow at the ball. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. When I was at university, I also was a student of SAM. They used to say with the increase of radio stations, the newspapers are dying. That you see, you'll wait for the story the next day to the newspapers, but the radio will have run the story severally. And the radios came and they increased, and the newspapers have stayed except the other one that is read. And what makes them stay? The social media has no gatekeepers, and so the stories are unbalanced. The stories are fake. They have announced people dead and they are somehow show up. You wonder whether they have resurrected. And everything is just like that. But in your opening remarks, Solomon, you said that you used to prepare your suits for the NTV at 9 or something, and then the NBS. We still watch those who remained. TVs are still active, and we watch those. For me, I am a teacher. I work with Chambogo University. Not that I teach, but I deal with students and teaching, so we are teachers. And when we have a graduation, it's a big deal. We are already on pressure now for December. And I organize my team and I create a tent for them, and then we have a hashtag, and when we agree on what to talk about, we have people strategically positioned everywhere to take pictures, and we have a WhatsApp group where they are shared, and then and we even trend. But the following day they'll say, but no TV ran the story. But you say we trended the hashtag and even Chambogo University. But as long as the story is not on NTV or NBS or any of these TV stations, you have not delivered. And the following day, the monitor or the New Vision will come and they will be running other stories and say, but how come we are not in the newspapers? You say, but we trended. So I agree entirely with what he told us, that we must push for balanced approach, because despite the reach and the viability of social media, believability and authenticity is still missing in the social media thing. Thank you very much, Ian. You are...
All right. Ian, is that all?
Okay, so we have Fisher and then Vian, and then close it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Fisher. Maybe I would like to pose this question to Solomon and maybe to the rest of the panel. Lately, we're dealing with something, I don't know, maybe many of the peer practitioners here experience.
Fisher,
yeah?
make sure you kiss it.
Pardon?
Kiss it.
I kiss the mic. I'm straight.
Keep it short.
Okay, I'll try to be a little bit louder. But lately, sorry about that. Yeah, lately, many organizations, I'll give in case in point my organization, National Water. You have read stories that the managing director of National Water didn't have a contract. For a fact, the managing director of National Water has enjoyed 6 salaries now for 6 months. He's in office. We're discussing digital media here, and we're talking about online publications. These are guys who wake up, no facts, they don't need to verify. So whether you go to, and you know it starts with one outlet, then the next, then the next, then the next, then the next, then the next. We have tried to engage them. One asks for 1M, 2M, 3M, until many of us said, you know what, to hell, write if you want to write. But I'll share this with you, Solomon. Maybe this is where you'll help us to push. We need to talk to UCC to see if there is a way we can regulate these online publications. Because as much as we're doing all this PR, you have your Twitter, you have your Facebook, you have all these things, a guy is just going to share one story. Even if you beg him to delete it, he'll copy and send on WhatsApp, and it will keep on running and running and running. Is there a way we could maybe force UCC to act? Because I think all these things we're doing and discussing won't really help if we don't find a regulation to those. There are some that are genuine, then there are some, they usually say mukuba alete. And I think enough is enough. Yeah, I think you can help us to push that. Maybe if UCC can come in to regulate. Thank you so much. And maybe to clarify, the boss of national data is in office for 5 more years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mine is a comment that probably ends into a question, perhaps for Solomon. Because you tickled us about the balance between the personal handles and the organizational handle. There is a situation, I have seen a few organizations like UPDF, which has a UPDF spokesman, perhaps KCCA. We also chose, I have 2 handles. I have at UCS spokesman, as well as my personal at Village. I've found it convenient in some ways when they are attacking you over a pothole at the airport, a leakage here and there, you engage through the UCS spokesman comfortably. Then when you are talking about your escapades, at Village comes in handy, because even my daughters are there following closely in those engagements. So I conveniently avoid these other abuses on this other one. However, I would like to know what, in your opinion, is the best practice. But as we go into that, I wanted to just highlight a recent example of a tweet that was made, I think, last week by my very good friend, a colleague in the profession, many of you know him, the spokesman of the Ministry of Health, our brother Emmanuel Inoviona. I think he uses his, of course, handle, X-handle, the personal one, as well as for the business of the organization. And this is what he tweeted. He had traveled through the airport and was about to land South Africa. I think he tweeted, he said, "Poor customer care on the so-called Pride of Africa at Kenya Airways. The airline cancels its flight and doesn't communicate at all." So by the time I took the screenshot, he had 31 reshares, reposts, and then here comes in Jimmy Spire responding to him. I'm sure many of you know Spire. Sentongo. This is what Spire tweeted in response to Neviona's tweet. "Sorry, brother, I can imagine that pain. It's like visiting a hospital only to find no medicine without any communication at all." And by the time I took the screenshot, Spire had 200 reposts. So I don't know, is this a case of when you live in a glass house, you shouldn't throw stones? Solomon, to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Solomon and the team, for the good deliberations. Mine is just about a question I'm asking as I can say people who are practicing PR for the last so many years. I feel this digital media is really nice, but it's removing the personal touch to PR. When we were doing PR in our time, in the 90s, when we were at the university, which seems like very many years ago, one of the things we learned in the classroom was that PR is about writing, empathy, and networking. I'm finding that with digital media, now it's more about sending out posts and posts, numerous posts. Personally, I feel, actually, I got to Java's, but not to take a milkshake. But I think that rat may have been there. But because the people came out and rallied about the rat, and then the management did not have to come to explain that rat. What am I saying? I think PR is about communicating, personal to personal communication. It's about writing. Nowadays you find PR people cannot write, but because they can go and tweet, because now they call it Xing, and X so many things, then they become good PR people. So where has the personal touch in PR gone? I know I may not be very popular with that, but that's what we feel, some of us. Is PR now about glamour and glitz? It's about being smart and putting on nice clothes and being in social media? Where is the networking? Where is the writing? Where is the empathy? I don't know who can answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca. I work with Uganda Communications Commission. There was someone who raised an issue with the UCC about online publishers. So I'll first respond to that quickly. Yes, we do license the online publishers, but we license them alongside with the Media Council. But because they're using a digital platform, we have oversight of what they do. So when someone publishes content that is grievous to you, kindly file a complaint. We will definitely get back to you. We'll follow through it. Do not take them on directly. If you have the connections to engage them, that is okay. But sometimes that works negatively. So we advise that if you have an alternative narrative that is proven, kindly file a complaint with your narrative. We will follow through with a clear process and a remedial action for the offender. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. Solomon, we have 5 minutes to respond to that. If probably we can have parting shots as we respond to the questions.
Thank you. Thanks. My panelist first, Mercy.
I think a lot of questions are directed to Ken, but I'll tackle the ones that come to mind real top of mind. One about, thank you. There's a question about consent for, especially from Bujagali, the team from Bujagali, they're wondering, how do you get consent from somebody perhaps to use their data on different platforms? I think at the point, you probably have this solution already, but at the point of payment of coming to the dam and something, you might want to have a rider for a consent form. I know right now, especially with the proliferation of digital platforms and everything, I think even the EU passed the GDPR regulation, the General Data Protection Regulation. So more and more people are starting to get aware of where you can use their data, whether it's their biodata, their images and everything. So very many institutions right now are just looking to make sure that they're GDPR compliance as well. So at every point of contact with the external stakeholders, you kind of need to start having that rider of, do we have a form that covers us as an institution that they can sign at the point of contact with the institution? So just to cover the organization. That's one. I think there's also the question about tackling manufactured crisis. Like we said, so on some areas you can say it's manufactured. Sometimes it's not manufactured, but it appears manufactured. I know very many times when you find yourself in a situation of a crisis, the same thing you're saying, you need to stop and breathe and get the facts. But if you move real quickly, you might move from a point of defense without necessarily knowing, getting to the bottom of everything. But let's even assume that in the process of getting at the bottom of everything, you've established that the crisis is manufactured. And the question is, do you respond or do you not respond? And should you respond, how heavy should it be? And so that was a question. I think for me, especially as somebody who's handled high-stake communication over years, the first thing you need to do, as Saran just said, press release doesn't have to come out in half an hour. It doesn't even have to come out in an hour, right? It's just trying to get to the bottom of the crisis. If the crisis is that it is manufactured, so then you're not solving the crisis that the information is out there. Your crisis is who's manufacturing the crisis. So you start to get to the bottom of what your problem is. If you can get to the bottom of who's manufacturing it, the way you will deal with it is very different from the way you will respond to what's already out there. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
All right, thanks. Just to add the icing on the cake there, especially you raised the aspect of the BOU versus the Crane Bank thing. It was really a tight war, and you mentioned that there are some people in this room who were also paid just to fight that. Let me just say this, facts, they really help a lot. The bank can just put out facts. This is a fact, this is a fact, this is a fact. Once you've given your side of the story with facts, keep quiet. Then, if you see, for example, a one Solomon Serwanja putting out this information, there are people who take their social media channels very seriously in that battle. Then you can decide to actually fight back using that battle. When I post something on my social media or on my Twitter or Facebook, I must be able to defend it. It's not a parody account. It's not one of, one account that has a picture that you don't even know. You may leave those a little bit. But if you have a one Serwanja putting out, a Jimmy Spire, a Agatha Tuhaire, a whatever, or like everyone else, those people who you think the people believe in and trust in, and you think that what they're putting out is rubbish, please confront them. But confront them with facts, because otherwise it will make us look terrible that we're putting out information that is not fact-checked. So there's also that approach. When it's no one who you don't even know, then you fight back, then you'll give it relevance. So there's ways of dealing with that. Karibu, Ayub.
Asante sana. Niendelee kwa Kiswahili. Mine is only one on, especially on the Reuben. He said, why are we still reading newspapers? Why are we still watching TVs and so forth and so forth? If you look on the social media style, writing style, it's quite different with television and the newspapers. A social media will hardly give you a space to write 250 words, where the creativity can come in. But there are so much details left out. In Tanzania, National Media Group, after invention of social media, they re-strategized their ways of reporting, their reporting style. You'll find a story on the social media, just simple, paraphrased, maybe 100 words. On Instagram, you'll find maybe 5 paras of a sentence or two. But if you go to the newspaper, you'll find a proper analysis. If you go to a television, you'll find a proper analysis. Social media goes first, but in this case, it's just like ushering a story which will be well analyzed later on. So that's one. 2, my sister here asked, where is the empathy? Where is the creativity of writing and the engagement? The engagement on social media is there. That one we can't deny. Empathy, that we can debate on. Creativity is there. You just imagine you want to communicate something within a certain parameter of words, and it has to be understood by people, and you're a PR. So I think we can still use this mix of media to show creativity as she wants, show our empathy as she wants, and of course, an example I gave I gave earlier on was on empathy. A KFC proposal, social media brought empathy there. A smiling girl is about empathy. So we're still on the good track of using both are medium.
Okay, thanks a lot. Let me just stop up a little bit on what you're saying on the aspect of legacy media versus social media. With a show of hands, in this room, how many of you watched news last night? Oh, you were at the bar? Okay. Let me rephrase it. Let me rephrase it. Let me go to last week. How many of you watched news last week? Look around on TV. Guys, look around the room. This is the reality I'm talking about. It is here. Inside this room. And that means that the consumerism of news has changed. We had, okay, roughly, let me put it in percentage, about 20% of people in this room watched news. So it speaks loud. People are consuming news on the go. They are driving in traffic, they sit, they get to their desk, they look at their socials, they are busy and everything. So where is the audience? Should we keep on things the way they used to be, or should we actually readjust to meet people with news at the, we find them with the news? I just wanted to add that. But Kenny, I'll give you 2 minutes. I see Ian standing up. I give you 2 minutes to respond to some of the questions that have been raised.
Questions? How do you keep media engaged? Interesting one. In my space, it's very interesting. I know in your space it is the same. Very transactional media relations, you know? Everyone expects something. But this is what I do. One, I invest in personal, interpersonal relationship building and management with key individuals in the media. Last month, I think last quarter, I was having lunch every Friday with top select editors on my budget, you know, just so that I'm top of mind when they are working on a story and you're telling a journalist, you need another voice here. Can you call Ken if it's related to the banking, you know? So do that whenever you have a minute, and you can find a way of creating space within your budget, small as it may be, once in a while. Have lunch with these people. Two, media engagements. This month I'm going to have a cocktail with all online media publishers, just to understand, hear their issues, tell them what we do, you know. so so you're invited. Yeah, so there's a bit of investment to do. Internally, you asked, a lot of your colleagues look at events as the work of PR. How do you involve people? Now, in banking, I'm not holding an event until I show you how it enables you in the business side of the, you know, of the organization. So I just tell you I'm a facilitator. I'm sponsoring this event because as part of my role, I also look at corporate sponsorships. But I won't tick it off unless there's a clear linkage on how it's going to enable business. So that way, we are working together. If I'm giving away tickets, I won't give them away. I'll give them to you and say, can you identify 10 customers who you think will enjoy our frigo, so that they go. So you're building relations with clients.
All right.
Quickly, there are several questions.
I may need to cut you short.
No,
Ian
no.
has actually, maybe we can.
Let's clear this, otherwise people are going.
Ken, I know you have the budgets, but...
No.
Okay, we'll give you 2 more minutes, please.
Okay, so online versus offline brand, very important point. Basically, what we do is we encourage our branches to treat customers as we treat them online. We have what we call a service shield award. It comes with a lot of money. So this is motivation that keeps them on their toes. How can we avoid running into trouble with data protection? Do this. Stay updated with data regulations, trends, and adopt your social media policies, internal and externally. Then lead the rest of the organization. Manufactured crisis. Now, in the past, it used to be gut feeling. I have a feeling this is a crisis. Now, can you shift to data-driven, responses. I get a lot of this. Red Pepper runs the negative article. Everyone is sending me screenshots, and I keep telling them, you are the one making this thing popular. Elsewhere, it's not there. And if it's my board chairman or CEO, I'll just tell them, look, we are playing the concept card here. We are not responding. Finally, lost personal touch, very important. I think it's important to know that not everyone is on social media. So in the banking sector, we have a lot of our customers who are not on social media. So still invest in community engagement activities. I have a good example I would give you. Every October, we have what we call Love October for Stanbic. We organize love markets. We invite our customers. They showcase their products. I bring all the chief executives. They have to be there. We bring them, engage with customers, and build that personal touch. It's in addition to all the things we can do. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks. Another round of applause to my panel. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ian, over to you. Can we do a picture before I hand over to you? Thank you. Okay, let's stand up for a picture. And thank you to all the
Ladies
partners and
gentlemen,
sponsors.
let's appreciate this panel. Good job. Great job. Solomon and your team, you did a very good job. Very insightful. We appreciate you, Solomon. You well know that public relations now, for you to get qualified as a PR professional, I think we have one training center. Is that Chartered Institute of Public Relations, UK. Africa, what are we doing about being recognized as PR professionals? Zambia has moved a step further to sign a statutory law that will govern PR in Zambia. And with us today is Simbo Jere, the Secretary of the Zambia Institute of Public Relations and Communications. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Simbo, who came all the way from the Ngoni area, speaking Ngoni in Zambia, to come and speak to us and share with us best practices. How do we move to recognizing PR in Uganda and at the continent level? Thank you very much. You have 10 minutes to present, 10 minutes for Q&A. 20 minutes in total.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Ian is trying to bully me. He let Solomon speak for 2 hours, and now he tells me you have 20 minutes. Nevertheless, I will try my best to make haste and just make this as short and succinct as possible. I know we have to be heading to lunch. So I have been introduced already, but at this moment, I would like to express our gratitude from the Zambia Institute of Public Relations and Communication to our colleagues in PRAU for giving us this platform and for inviting a representative from our institute. So to the President of PRAU and your Council, Madam President, we are grateful for this space. Thank you so much. So, okay, we're on there, and this faces which direction? Just want to try this. Or is it this direction? Ah, good, okay. I got it. All right, so, perfect. So I am here today to speak about the importance of being legislated as a professional institute, or indeed securing statutory recognition for your professional institute. Now, before I quickly delve into the subject matter, because Ian asked me to be very quick about it, I would just like to share briefly what the Zambia Institute of Public Relations and Communications is. So ZIPRAC is a statutory body that was established. Okay. Good. So ZIPRAC is a statutory body that was established by the ZIPRAC Act of 2022. So our act came into force last year in August, and the president has assented to that piece of legislation. So we are currently implementing this act in Zambia. We are regulated by law officially as it is. So what are some of our functions?
in accordance with the piece of legislation that establishes ZIPRAC as a statutory body, one of our functions is to register and to regulate the professional conduct of public relations and communication practitioners in Zambia. Our other mandate is to ensure that we promote the public relations and communication profession in Zambia. In addition to that, which is among others, we are also mandated to enforce the continuous professional development of public relations practitioners. And as I go along in the presentation, I will show clearly how we're able to do these things. So now into the subject matter, the meat of what we're looking at right now. What is the importance of securing legislation? So I am giving two perspectives this afternoon. I am giving a country perspective, what you stand to benefit when you are legislated as an institute, as well as what we stand to benefit at sub-regional level and at regional level, at the Africa continental regional level. So number one of the benefits that you get as an institute when you are regulated by law is that your members become highly professional and ethical in their conduct. Now, why is that? That is because you have this piece of legislation that is regulating the conduct of your professionals in their day-to-day work and in their decision-making as they carry out their work. Alongside the piece of legislation, you as an institute are also able to enforce your policies, which include, policies such as your disciplinary code, policies such as your code of conduct. When you have a piece of legislation that is regulating practitioners, you're able to enforce your other policy documents, thereby ensuring that your members are highly professional and very ethical in their conduct. Another benefit of being regulated by law is that you as an institute are able to ensure that your members are continuously developing as professionals. I know sometimes some people would have graduated from the university maybe 20, 15 years ago, and they have not been upgrading, they are not abreast with what's happening, the current trends. They'll see the young people tweeting. We have to catch along with that because technology is moving forward. So that is why continuous professional development is important. We haven't an option but to continue developing as professionals. But if you don't have a piece of legislation that regulates your practitioners, how are you going to ensure that everyone is developing professionally? It's difficult to do that. You don't have a piece of legislation to enforce that. So in ZIPRAC, what we've done since our government passed the ZIPRAC Act of 2022 is that we have developed a continuous professional development program, and all of us who are members of ZIPRAC must ensure we subscribe to this program. Why? Because it is tied to the renewal of our licenses. For example, if this year I missed all the trainings and I probably missed the annual general meeting and conference, I would not have accumulated enough points for me to be able to renew my license. So what happens? My practice is threatened. Because if my license is not renewed, the inspectors are coming for my employer, and they're coming for me. And I will show you very soon that we actually have a particular section in our act which shows that if somebody is not licensed or they have not renewed their license, as an institute, we can take them to court, have them penalized. They will pay us a fine. If they fail to do that, they can go to prison, or actually do both, pay us a fine and go to prison. So legislation is very important. Now, are we just trying to make sure that people are continuously, just gaining new skills? The primary reason why we're trying to do that is that we're trying to upscale the standard of our delivery. We're trying to give our employers and our clients value for money. It's not enough to say we're pure practitioners and we've been practicing 10, 15 years. What value are you bringing to your clients? So we want to continue developing as professionals so that we're offering qualitable and cutting edge services to our clients and our employers. So that is just a picture from last month. That was October. We had a training in conjunction with one of our universities, the Mulungushi University, and this was basically a training on strategic communication. And this training is one of those that actually is attracting points. So you earn yourself your points to be able to renew your license for the following year. So that is just an example of one of the training programs we've had this year. What else happens when you're regulated by law? You have enhanced credibility and trust amongst your stakeholders. You see, when you're a voluntary association, you can only do so much. You don't have a piece of legislation to enforce a lot of your policies. So the level of credibility that you have is not as much as your other colleagues, for example, those in the legal fraternity or in the accounting field. But what happens is that when you are regulated by law is that your credibility is enhanced amongst your stakeholders and they have more trust in you. Because with a piece of legislation, because you see, you push for it yourselves. I know Uganda is in the process of doing that. You make the steps yourself. The ministry will not come and say, oh no, we want to regulate you, but you push for it yourself. So when you actually attain that feat, what you're telling your stakeholders, what you're telling your publics, is that we are a serious people. We are organized, we're highly professional, and we want to upscale as an institute. So therefore, you inspire trust from your stakeholders. I'll give you an example. When ZIPRAC was just a voluntary association, say over a year ago, we didn't have the kind of recognition that we have today with our government. We didn't have the recognition we have with other public and private institutions, including other professional institutes. For example, we have one of our longest surviving professional institutions in Zambia, the Law Association of Zambia. They've been there forever. But now we have recognition from all of these publics, and it's really amazing the kind of progress we have made in just slightly over a year since we were regulated by law. The government is inviting us to their fora to give a voice in regards to communication. We are sitting on serious boards. Some of our members have been appointed to boards in Zambia. Because of the acts that we have been recognized as being serious. I note that in a lot of countries that I have been to, the role of public relations most times does not go to director level. It's mainly like PR managers, like, a high position you will have. But in Zambia, a lot of organizations have now realized the strategic role that PR and communication has. And the standard at which we are operating is upscaling. We now have a lot of directors, director positions actually even being created. We're having representation in boards. So credibility and trust, it does a lot to upscale and to enhance your profile as an institute. Okay, so I talked about being recognized. And by the way, another important thing I wanted to mention. So in Zambia, since the passing of the ZIPRAC Act, it is now a requirement. There is no organization that is going to be hiring a communications professional and we don't have representation from ZIPRAC on their interview panel. It's not happening. If they are hiring anybody, that person has to be a member of ZIPRAC. They must show their registration certificate. And even in job adverts now, if you find a job ad for a communications person in Zambia, one of the first qualifications you will see there is that they should be a member and licensed by ZIPRAC. So Ian, when he was introducing my presentation, talked about how we can protect our industry. Our other colleagues in older professions like medicine or accountancy or law realized a long time ago that every industry has certain people who are ineligible to practice that want to parade as practitioners. Helen alluded to some people who can stand in front of an audience they can wear very sharp clothes and look pretty, very glamorous, and they can parade as PR. Never a day sat in a PR class. Do they know the basic principles in PR? Are they able to communicate and write effectively to different publics? They don't have those qualities, but they will parade and say they are PR. Without a piece of legislation, you cannot keep such people out. They will continue to parade as one of us. So your piece of legislation is very important to make sure that the right people get the correct jobs. And lastly, this is an interesting one, which I think a lot of you like to see. Revenue is always an issue for many institutes. I've been in ZIPRAC as a mere member, and then on the council before and after we have been legislated. I know that revenue is something. To put together activities, to keep your members in touch, all of that requires resources. So how do you mobilize resources when you're not legislated? You simply appeal to the goodwill of your members. If I take a census in here, there might be some people who are in this conference and maybe they didn't pay their membership fee for PRAU this year. You could find such people. But when your piece of legislation is enforced, Madam President, you will bag your money bag. You are going to secure your money bag, and you're going to carry out a lot of strategic decisions which require money that you can't execute right now. So how are you able to secure that revenue? Obviously, the law will mandate you to register, and when the members register, they will pay the registration fee. Then every year, you are going to issue licenses for people to practice. Every year, including those who are very silent members, the ones that don't want to come to your events, the ones that don't want to engage on your fora. Whether they like it or not, if they are going to practice in Uganda, they will have to pay their registration fee and their license fee. And then you bag your money bag. So for example, as ZIPRAC, I would tell you an interesting story of how we have traveled. We moved from having only one member of staff, a full-time member of staff. We didn't have the money. If people don't pay membership, you keep on knocking on their doors. If they don't pay, you can't do much. So for the longest time, we only had one full-time member of staff. And then suddenly, a little over a year, we have 6 members of staff, permanent members of staff. So that is what the law can do for you. And this is just a little over a year. So you can imagine how much we can achieve, you know, as we go along this path. Before, it was actually even, you know, like difficult to execute certain tasks as excellently as you want to, because PR people are busy in their jobs. I work for the parliament, I work with politicians for my day job. It's hectic. I work long hours. I leave home at 6, I get home at 8 p.m. But in between those hours, before we had full-time members of staff, I had to sneak in some hours for ZIPRAC because I'm secretary, you know. We have to churn out this and that, you know, look at policy issues. But when you have full-time members of staff, you will see just how your officers, you know, a PRAU or in other associations, how they would just transform your level of professionalism, how seriously people will take you. Everything is just going to be revolutionized. So those are some of the benefits of, you know, being legislated as a professional institute. Now, my presentation also touches on influence in the region. Okay, so I was just going to show you that part that talks about how you can't hire somebody who's not licensed. I'll just read that quickly. That's from part 4 of our ZIPRAC Act. 19 and subsection 1 says, a person shall not practice as a practitioner without a valid practicing certificate issued to that person by the institute under this act. 2, a person shall not offer employment to a person who does not hold a valid practicing certificate issued under this act. And number 3, a person who contravenes subsection 1 or 2 commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 300,000 penalty points or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years or to both. So the law really empowers our institutes. So my presentation touches on how, being legislated at home can have an influence in the region. So our benefits at home have a ripple effect into our sub-regions like East Africa, Great Lakes, SADC, and overall at the Africa continental region. Why do I say this? When you have inspired trust in your stakeholders, enhanced your profile and credibility amongst your stakeholders, which includes your government, you can now have the confidence to delve into governance issues. You now have the confidence to knock at their door and demand for certain opportunities and to query because you have a piece of legislation. You see, if you go to the ministry and tell them, your ministry did not conduct this in accordance with this act, so we are enforcing this on you, the law is supreme to that ministry. They will have to listen to you. So I'll give you an example. We've been discussing the Great Lakes region and East Africa. I'll give you an example. When there are meetings in the Great Lakes region for your political leaders, your presidents, your parliamentarians, there are certain policy decisions that are made, and those have to be communicated. Trust me, any meeting relating to governance or legislation always has a requirement for communication needs. How will the people of the region know? Our relevance is always, always there. When we have secured trust, enhanced credibility, and the profile of our institutes will be brought to the table in these meetings. Our leaders will mention to say, in our country, we have PRAU, and PRAU is going to undertake this task. PRAU, together with all of its members, are going to be able to communicate this policy to our people. We're going to domesticate this decision that's coming from the region back at home because we have a trusted body that can do this. That is the ripple effect this legislation can have. And then, it is not always that we should be reactive, that we should wait for the government to call on us. We realized in the process of pushing for the passing of this legislation that we had to be very proactive. We leveraged every relation that we have. For our members who were part of the Ministry of Media and Information, we lobbied with them to make sure that they are pushing it on the agenda of the minister, to make sure that the bill comes to Parliament. When the bill came to Parliament, myself and other colleagues who work for the Parliament were pushing and lobbying with the members of Parliament that sit in that committee. We were pushing with the committee clerks who serve on that committee. We were pushing with the potential stakeholders, trying to have buy-in and support for the bill. So make sure you leverage all your connections. All the people that are here are your resources to ensure that you have your bill passed. So you have to be proactive. It's a combination of being reactive and proactive. It's not bad to be reactive because you're reacting to something and you're being relevant, but you must also make sure to be very proactive. So if they don't call us, if they don't call on us and they're having these meetings, yesterday I loved the presentation by one of the ladies where she talked about us having that urge to want to know what's going on. When you have the information about what's going on, you can make yourself relevant. When you are when you're legislated and your government knows you, if your government is hosting a meeting for the Great Lakes or East African region, you have the confidence to go and register for participation in that conference. And if you're asked what your relevance is, you would tell them, key decisions are going to be made out of this meeting. There will be resolutions and policy documents. And we want to position ourselves to be able to communicate this message to our people. So that is the influence you can have when you're regulated. And then finally, under the umbrella of EAPRW, we have the Africa Public Relations Association. So the other ripple effect is beyond our sub-regions. It's at the Africa level. When you have been legislated, you build muscle even for the Africa level. If many of us are legislated by law, EAPRW will become a very strong body that represents a lot of credible institutes around Africa. And then our representatives in APRA can boldly go to the Africa Union, they can boldly go to the Pan-African Parliament when there are sittings and request for a seat at the table, because we are bringing value to the table. We are going to communicate their resolutions, their key decisions from those meetings. That's the ripple effect of being legislated at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. We have a Q&A session next. Let's appreciate Sibo one more time. Good job. I see some people losing jobs after this law. It's very good that you come for PRAU master classes. Okay, so we'll start with Madam President, Helen, then Emma there.
Thank you very much, Sibu. That was an excellent presentation. My question is about your members or non-members. What was the reaction, or what have you seen in terms of change, behavioral-wise, professional-wise, from them as a result of this act being passed? Has it reduced on your members? Are the ones you have on your membership quality professionals? Please speak a little bit to the transition period that you've seen as a result of the act being passed in terms of your membership. Thank you.
Thank you for the good presentation. Similar to Tina's, but I'll be briefer. We have, as you said, different parties. Even you mentioned it. Different practitioners. Those in PR Association of Uganda, those in different other groups. And we are finding that, we are starting on this bill, but you're finding that those who are not in PRAU are a bit scared of the bill, that they will be locked out. Can you share with us a bit how you handled these different situations? How did you get all of you to move as one? Thank you.
Change management, I think the last one here. Okay, the last one there. We need to finish. Sibo is around, so we interact with her.
Okay, thank you very much for the great presentation. I have like 3 questions. So I'm interested because in Rwanda, we don't really have a public relations association that is working. It's kind of dormant. And on the other hand, we have the Office of the Government Spokesperson, which is overlooking for the PR professionals. But this is on the side of the public institutions, meaning the private sector is kind of taking care of themselves. So I wonder, what's the difference between your institution and Public Relations Association in Uganda? So is there the difference? Does it mean PRAU in Uganda doesn't have, is not instituted by law? My question goes to the criteria. What are the criteria to be licensed? What it comes to study? Does the person need to have studied communications or journalism or something relevant? Because some people will argue when you're saying that this gives the space for the right people to be placed in the right jobs. So some people will tell you, even if I didn't do communications or journalism, but I'm better in practicing than someone who didn't do it. So that's also a question. And my last one is, who covers the logistics for trainings you offer to make sure that the members accumulate the relevant points to stay licensed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emma. Rwanda PR Association is not there. We start with you.
Thank you, Sibo, for that presentation. Mine is one question. How long did it take you in terms of years to actually to say that, you know what, let's establish ZPRAC until last year when the act was finally put in place?
Okay. Then, Madam President, PRSK is also another case study, very good case study.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Mine is not, it's not a question, but it's just to comment because this is where we are currently. And it will be a matter of maybe 3-4 months before the president ascends to it. So it has not been an easy journey. It has taken almost 6 years, 6 to 7 years. For me, my election appeal, it was just one, that I'm going to bring this bill. And if you want to contest me, then you better have the muscle to get into parliament to do this. And I'm glad it's actually going through. But what it takes, it could be private members' bill, it could be funded, but I want to tell you, God has been, I could just say this is favor, because it has been purely lobbying on PR and who you know and what you know and how you can move conversations based on who you are. And that has really gone a long way in ensuring that our parent ministry is listening, legislators are listening, ministers are listening to you, and you move things sometimes, you know, behind the scenes. People don't know what it takes, the conversations, and they're not doing it because it is PRSK. They're doing it because it is you, Patricia, or they're doing it because it is you, Arik, the president. So I cannot start telling you how much it takes, but it is God's favor. But again, the unsettled, people are not very happy. Of course, not everyone is going to be happy, because you have practitioners who, you'll do away with quacks now. People now know you have to be straight, proper, you have to have studied this, you have to be somebody who knows your stuff and who can articulate things. If you are a consultant, then there's a certain retainer you have to pay every year, registration fees. You cannot charge a client a certain amount over and above, just like lawyers in the Law Society of Kenya. You cannot represent a client if you're not you know, in the straight path with your association. So even agencies, there are some that are not very happy, but at the end of the day, you cannot please everyone, because this is not ice cream. So we are not making ice cream to please people, but we are just trying to say, if as a practitioner, as a society, as the council, as a governing council, if there's anything that we are going to be remembered for, it is going to be this. And names will go down in history as people who have actually taken up this. And it involves a lot of sacrifice. Sometimes you even travel on your own account, because members will ask you, whose money are you using to do this? And you cannot say, oh, I used you know, 10,000 to go to Mombasa, an air ticket, because I was meeting a minister. So how do we know you are meeting a minister? Where are the minutes? You can't have minutes with a minister, but that work must be done. So sometimes you just have to be very selfless, and you just say, this is like doing church work for the people. Once you've reached a certain level in your career, then you know that you're giving back. And no matter what it takes, just book a ticket on your own and go. If you have to buy lunch for someone, just buy it. But you cannot come back and say, we spent this much, we spent $500 for lunch, we did this. You'll have a lot of that, Tina, you'll have a lot of that, but you have to be selfless, and you have to look at the bigger picture, and you have to remember that even as a professional, even as a president yourself, what do you stand for? And what will you be remembered for 47 years later as Tina Wamala? So it's a lot of passion also, a lot of dynamics that go behind the scenes, but within the next 6 months, hopefully, or you know, shorter, I hope that by the time we are going to be in Tanzania, we'll be giving a different story, that we actually made it to the end of the show as Kenya.
Asante sana, Madam President. Tina, your work is cut out. Count on our support. I think Madam President answered some of your questions. Simbo, I ask kindly, summarize. Don't go through the questions because some of the questions have been answered, the time period taken and what it takes. Just summarize, then we shall interact outside there. Because I can see, yeah, you see.
Thank you very much. So to sum up, in terms of basic qualifications that you need to have for licensing, we have that set out in the ZIPRA constitution. So remember, in addition to the piece of legislation, you will have to develop your own policy documents that speak to the act. So we have that laid out for those that might want to access that. Those are public documents. Send me an email, let's chat as we head out, and I'll be able to share those. What was the reaction to the act? So not everyone is happy with the act. There are some practitioners who don't have the requisite qualifications, so they are thinking what's going to happen to us. But the law is not there to get people out of their jobs, so we have a grace period for people to transition. We have a provision for that in our law. Who pays for the continuous professional development trainings that we as an institute conduct? So members are responsible for paying for those continuous professional development courses, and so that actually also adds to the revenue of your institute, apart from the registration and license fees. How is PRAU different from ZIPRAC? ZIPRAC has a piece of legislation, law, which we use to enforce all these things such as professional conduct, which we enforce against other policy documents. If you're misbehaving, we can discipline you because we have the act. When you don't have the act, it's difficult to discipline your members. It is also difficult to find members who don't pay your registration or your license fees. So those are some of the differences. I think that some of the, okay, maybe one last one that was pertinent. How old is ZIPRAC and how long did it take for us to have this piece of legislation enacted? The journey to the enactment of this ZIPRAC Act took about 3 years, but ZIPRAC has been in existence for over a decade. So since its inception, there's been a lot of efforts to get that done, but the active work to get the piece of legislation passed has been in the last 3 years. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate Simbo, Zambia. By the way, congratulations on your recent award, Global Award. Did you mention about it?
You gave me 10 minutes, Ian. I couldn't talk about all the glamorous things ZIPRAC is doing. I could only mention a few. So only the award. So this year, we were awarded and recognized as the Global Public Relations Association of the Year for all the effort we have done to get the act passed and in raising the profile and standard of the practice of PR in Zambia.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's appreciate Simbo one more time. A photo with the Madam President, yes, okay. Ezaga join. Ezaga is the king of Zambezi. He's also in the house. Ezaga Patrick, join this photo, please. Ezaga, good to see you, my man. Comrade Ezaga. Now, I'm going to invite the president of PR Association of Uganda to tell us what next. We've been here for 3 days. What next? When is Nyege Nyege? What is the plan? How do we reach there? Do we have tickets? Thank you very much.
A round of applause for our MC today. Thank you very much, Ian. As you can see, I'm losing my voice. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 3 hectic days, and last night was crazy. But I'd like to thank you all once again for being incredible delegates. It's been an amazing 3 days thus far. As mentioned to you yesterday, today is a half day, intentionally half day, because we've given you kind of information overload over the last 2.5 days. So today our program is very light, as you could tell. And immediately after lunch, we're all required to head to the gardens. Is that correct, Collins? The gardens of this hotel, Jinja Nile Resort, which is next to the Banji place, right? Yes, so we head to the gardens. If you're not in comfortable gear, please try and change into comfortable gear, sportswear preferably. We're going to engage in some sports activities, team building activities. So please come and partake and get to know your colleagues from the region better. For the continuation of our partying, at 8 p.m. today, the bus will pick us up from our respective hotels to head to Club 49, which is the best club in Jinja, I'm told. So if you're interested, it's not mandatory. We'll head out. Just so you're aware, it's a corporate club, so no sandals, no shorts. You have to be in proper gear. For the ladies, please don't carry heavy handbags. You'll be chased by the gate. So ensure you have small, tiny handbags, or just your phones and your money. And it's at your own cost. We're taking you there, but it's at your own cost, entrance fees and your beers and whatnot. Tomorrow, we're back here, same time. Full day. Tomorrow is going to be an intense program, and it's the official closing of the conference, where we'll touch on certain topics related to the EAC integration, which is a heavy theme for our East Africa PR Week this year. We're expecting to have the Minister for ICT Tanzania join us virtually, as well as Minister for ICT Uganda, handing over the baton that I spoke to yesterday to our colleagues in Tanzania. So please, let's all be here for that momentous occasion. It's a big milestone for us in Uganda to say we've played our part, and now we wish our brothers and sisters in Tanzania the best. We're still here on Friday for the PRAU Awards, but I'll give you more details about PRAU Awards and the daytime activities for Friday tomorrow afternoon. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy your lunch and enjoy the sports activities. Thank you.